Hello and welcome to the Bryce Cast. I'm, of course, Bryce, and this is a podcast talking about Call of Duty players and their histories and all the tangents and stories that come with it. I'll be bringing to all the action, but more importantly, my guest for this week, Nameless, also known as Anthony. First of all, how are you?
I'm pretty good, man. This year's been wild.
Yeah,
The off season has felt like an eternity. The game is out though. I've been grinding Cold War, and life's going pretty good, man. I'm hanging out.
that's awesome. That's
Haven't
good to hear.
haven't gotten COVID. Nobody. Well, I've had one friend who's gotten COVID, but no family members, anything like that. So it's been a solid year. Everybody's been pretty safe, at least in my immediate, circle.
Oh, that's good to hear, man. It's running rampant everywhere at the moment, especially over here. We've just had come out another lockdown, but let's move on from talk of the horrific pandemic sweeping the globe and jump into this episode. I am super glad to have you on, by the way, because as this podcast has evolved into talking about players' histories and their stories, it occurred to me that there are players obviously now who have retired or moved away from a pro career playing, and it is very, very important we get their stories and their histories down before anything. You could move out of the industry tomorrow and go work for a thing we will not speak to you for 5 years.
That's
And
true.
obviously yours is a very important history within Call of Duty. So my question is this to kick things off. How did you get into competitive Call of Duty? Where did you start? Because the first recorded instance of you anywhere is somewhere in Call of Duty 4.
Oh wow, yeah. So I was playing a long time prior to that. It's actually crazy. I don't think I've ever really told these older stories. But I started playing in 2006. Whenever the 360 came out, I got Call of Duty 2, and I had only played like sports games before that, right?
Yeah.
And I got Call of Duty 2, and I was playing split screen with my friends, and I was just literally way better than all of them, like immediately, like instantly. And what was weird about that is like I hadn't played a lot of like FPS games before. Like I played Halo a couple times, but keep in mind, like I was really young at this time, like when Halo was big. I was super young because I'm 26 now. So when Halo was lit, like I was just, young, too young to be playing at that time. So I got Call of Duty 2, and I was playing that with my friends, destroying them. And then I just started to play, public matches, having a lot of fun. And I remember seeing people with clan tags, and there was like C2K and these different clan tags that were in my public matches. Like, what the hell is this? And I had one friend at the time on Xbox Live that I was playing with. His name was Aftermath. I met him in a public match, and we were like, we want to be on a clan. We want to figure out how these guys are doing this. So I actually called Microsoft, and I was on the phone with like the Microsoft employee trying to figure out how to make a clan because I thought it was something with Xbox. At the time, you didn't know anything about this stuff. They were like, I don't know what you're talking about, whatever. So we just searched the internet, and we found Game Battles, which was like SOCOM Battles at the time, or had just become Game Battles. And then we found NX Gamers. For those of you who are, a lot of you guys definitely probably don't know what NX Gamers is, but it was another Game Battles type website that we actually primarily used for all of Call of Duty 2. And we had from there, I just started playing on the ladder, and I became, like one of the better players in that game. I was on like 12 teams at once in this game. So we had a pretty big community, man. It's weird to think about. Like there was like 15 teams with 10 plus players on each team because you had clans, right?
Yeah.
So there was a giant community, and we all used the forums to communicate because there's no Twitter or or whatever. We weren't using Twitter, Instagram, and stuff like that. It wasn't even out. So we used the forums to communicate and just party chat online. And yeah, that's basically how I started. And the only people that from Call of Duty 2 that continued to play for all were like Moho, Assassin, Pac-Man. I might be forgetting like one or two other people who played a couple years after that. But yeah, that's basically how I started, dude. Way back, just Game Battles, organically playing.
That's awesome, man. Like it's interesting. I always forget, like back in those days, how big clans were. Like joining a clan was like a genuine thing everyone wanted to do. Now it's
Yeah,
just like just on a team or an org. No one really joins clans anymore unless it's
passion, bro.
yeah, it's mad. But yeah, I remember the old forum days. Obviously, I'm European, so I was joining the Deserto forums back then,
Yeah.
trying to get some COD 4 games in and stuff. My kind of first foray because I was Halo before that. But no, like it's always interesting to see people's route into the industry and route into playing more sort of like this is when we take it seriously. This is when we push forward. as a career. I suppose we need to talk about you actually joining the circuit then, because here's the thing. So according to this, there's a couple of online tournaments by the look of it, just in COD 4 alone, and then the MLG National Championship. Apparently, you attended with the team ASCE. Apparently, it was you. It was you, Caliber, Synthetic, and Axel.
Oh, okay. So another interesting story. So, we played in Call of Duty 4. We were a very good team, and we qualified for the national championship that was in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and we were top 8, and we were top 6 actually. We had an invite, so you had to get the invite. But my grandma wouldn't let me go, so I wasn't allowed to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I wasn't allowed to go, and then Axel, my guy Mike, he's still around. He doesn't play anymore competitively, but he was very good. Me and him were both too young to go, so our parents wouldn't let us go, so we weren't able to attend. So we couldn't go to Vegas, which sucked, because I grinded Call of Duty 4 to the very end. But yeah, I played in all the holiday classics in that game. I actually think I have a small hand in like Rambo and Big Timer's start blow up story. And the reason being is in Call of Duty 4, they were on like a struggling team that wasn't doing that great, and they needed to find players. And me and Axel actually picked them up, and we went like 12, 13, 14-0 on the pro circuit ladder. We were the #1 team by a mile. And then when it went to playoffs, Big Timer couldn't leave his baseball playoff match. All these memories are coming back to him. So he skipped playoffs of one of the pro circuits to play a baseball playoff match for his school or something like that. And then they obviously went on to continue to play and attend tournaments and stuff with their team in the next year. And I wasn't allowed to go to the tournament that year or the next year.
Oh, that sucks, man. And a few people say that. Obviously, back in the day, the thing is now, if you're a youngster now, I feel like parents are way more forgiving of it because they can see it broadcast like massive things. Right? Back in the day, you're like, yeah, I'm going to a hall, a dark hall with other people who play games. There's very little money. We're going.
I was like 15 or 14, I don't know, and I'm like, Grandma, can I go to Las Vegas? I qualified for a tournament, and it's my grandma, dude. Like, she's not gonna hop on the plane with me, and everybody else has work and obligations, so it just wasn't happening at that time, which I totally get, and it was meant to be. So
yeah, well, it didn't hold you back at the very least. You kind of kept on trucking with it, and as we kind of move through the games here, there was a little foray. It looks like Modern Warfare 2. You played a few tournaments on, not a ton. Actually playing with Too Quick in this one. I can actually see the last one. In Team Resi.
Yeah, so MW2 I played a little bit, and then it got switched to PlayStation 3. And I didn't have the money to get a PS3, so I couldn't play.
That makes sense.
So I couldn't play any of the pro circuits. I had no money to get a PS3, and obviously nobody was going to get me it at the time. And then because I already had a 360 and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going to Play and Trade, which is something, it's like a GameStop, and they're throughout like Chicago and stuff. Yeah. They had a tournament there at the Play and Trade, and the winner got PlayStation 3. It was a 1v1 tournament. They had a 1v1 tournament for Xbox 360 and for PlayStation 3. And if you won, you got to pick which console you wanted. And then I won the Xbox 1v1. And then the guy that won the PS3 1v1, we had to 1v1 again at the end for the championship. Damn. And since he won the coin flip, he got the pick that we played on the PS3. I had never played on PlayStation before in my life, and I beat him on PlayStation in the Play and Trade and won my PS3. Yeah, that's how
I was gonna say that. I thought it was about to take a horrible turn, man. Switching consoles is not easy, man.
Yeah, High Rise 1v1 MW2.
I miss High Rise map. Obviously, that map would never work in competitive today. But I remember playing High Rise back in the day. It's like, this is a great map. Obviously, now it'd be terrible. Like, the amount of angles you could pull and lock people in those windows, you'd never get out. Not in a million years. But no, that's super interesting. And you know what? That's a kind of an interesting story. I wonder what would have happened if you'd lost that 1v1. Like, would you have continued forward?
I wouldn't have been in the Black Ops 1 pro circuit, and I would have missed the first event. And I got second at that first event, so my career might have never been.
That's you basically 1v1 for a pro COD career. That's insane.
That's wild to think about, yeah.
So speaking of which, we are moving now into the official MLG circuit and Black Ops 1. Now, I enjoyed massively Black Ops 1 myself, and obviously it was a big thing over in America. MLG kicked off an official circuit for it. You guys obviously play different rules than we did, but I used to love watching it regardless. And like you said, you came second to that very first tournament. What did that mean then? Because that's basically got to be your like, this is now. I mean, first of all, there's prize money involved, and back then,
Yeah.
6,000 that you won, significant chunk of change. And what was it like going to, let's face it, a big tournament with that much on the line and coming away with a win? Well, I say a win, a second, but still a win in terms of like career wise.
Yeah. Well, I was 17. I had never been to like a major event before. I had went to a bunch of local tournaments near me, and I was like pretty good at them. But those aren't anything like this, right? So I get to this event, dude, and my uncle had to go with me, and my grandma actually paid for it out of her credit card, like bought me and my uncle a flight and paid for my hotel because we had nothing paid for. And she was like, "This is your birthday present," because the tournament, if I remember correctly, was like April 3rd or something like that. And my birthday is April 3rd. So it was my birthday present, right? And I was like, "I don't want anything. Just give me this flight and send me there, whatever." It's a fucking good birthday present. So I get there with my uncle. I think that might have been the first time I flew anywhere as well. Yeah, it was my first flight I ever took, was to my first event. So I take my first flight, my uncle's first flight. It was his first flight too.
Yeah.
We get there and I'm like, what the hell is this? I walk in, there's like the Dr. Pepper booth, the Hot Pocket thing, whatever. And like just that passion, I remember it. Like I'd never be able to replicate that because it's like experiencing your dream for the first time. Because I had watched, Halo on TV at night for, a couple of years prior to that on USA Network. I would watch them play. And I was there and I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. And then, you're meeting all these people for the first time. Like at my first event in that game, I met, was it Clayster? I met Aches. I met, Too Quick, Main, Liar, who was like Liar. I considered my best friend in the world at the time because we spent so much time together online. And just meeting all these people was just wild. And then competing was crazy as well. I mean, like we made a run all the way to the finals. We played against Aches and them where we ended up losing and, winning that money, which was like, I think I got like $2,000, $2,500 or something like that. Brought it home. My grandma was like, wow, now you can pay for your next event. And then, that's sort of how everything started, man. Like it was just organic and super crazy to just finally be at an event. I didn't think that they were actually as dope as they were. And then it just exceeded all my expectations. I was like, this is what I gotta do.
Is that because I said to a lot of people when I talk about first coming in the industry, LAN events, they change your entire perspective of what you do because you just want to go back. Especially now, obviously it's old hat to you, right? But back in those days, you'd be like, I have to go to the next event. You'd be talking it up for months. You're like, I cannot wait to get back in there. It's magical. And obviously, you competed on the rest of the pro circuit. A second at the first event, continuing on for Columbus and Anaheim. Few interesting names actually coming up from back in those days, right? And this is the thing. Said you team with Too Quick. Also coming up here, I see Sharp. First teaming with Sharp in Black Ops 1. Is that the same Sharp?
Yeah, it's Sharp. We dropped Too Quick left. So we got second place and Too Quick left. So then we picked up Sharp. Yeah. And then we picked up Sharp and we didn't play as well. We got like 12th after that. And that kind of hurt my career in that game a little bit. And then there was a point in the game where I kind of just like chalked it. Like I just gave up.
Wow.
Unfortunately, yeah, it was just a situation that I had gotten in, and because I had two stints where I had an opportunity to get a championship. It was like my resistance team. Then I got screwed over because Too Quick left, and then I got on influence, and we were super super good. But mutation was just a mother sucker, man. Like he was the worst. He was to this day like the worst teammate I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I love him though. Cool dude, but wow, is he a toxic little guy back then, dude? Him and Pluto. We were really good though. We got 5th place. We took leverage to game 5. If we would have won that, we would have had an opportunity to win that event. And then after that, he left. No, after that, we were supposed to go to the next event with him, and then he ended up leaving the team a week before the event.
Oh,
and then my season was just done because I got roster locked on a team with Nadeshot, Kalani, and Served.
Oh, that's mad. Like, because I mean, like you obviously you played with Saints as well, and you also played with Nadeshot in Black Ops 1.
Yeah,
like it's crazy how like you just see names here and they've just continued for like the next decade. It's unreal to kind of see those names continue.
2011.
Yeah, A long
You know
time
what,
ago.
Bryce? What this makes me think of though, talking about all these events is
Yeah.
like it's kind of a bizarre thing as a 17-year-old kid to be on a national tour throughout the country. Like I think in that year I went to it for a kid who's never traveled before in his life.
Yeah.
I went to my first event in Dallas with my uncle, but I'm 17. That's pretty freaking young, man. And I was just flying to all these places by myself. Like it wasn't like I was going with a family member after the first one.
Yeah.
And looking back at it is like I would go to these events with like $150 in my pocket. There's no Uber back then and stuff. Like it was just weird to think about just being on that tour, man. It's a bizarre thing for psychologically for a 7-year-old kid to be doing, is just traveling the world to gaming conventions by themselves, competing. It's weird when you think about it like that.
It is, and that's the thing, especially without the infrastructure there is today. Like, obviously, the young 18-year-olds that turn up in today's circuit, like they've got team managers, coaches with them. Like the staff are all taking care of them from the outset. Like they know where you are basically at all times, and most of your stuff is taken care of. Back then, like obviously when I never really competed at a good level. Big on events, you're budgeting out the weekend. You said you turn up to an event with $150 in your pocket. I've seen you order $150 worth of sushi one of the last events I worked with you, just for like a dinner.
Life's going good. Life's going good. But yeah, dude, it's a bizarre thing because I was showing up and I didn't even know how to work an email back then. So we would just remember when we had to show up and everybody was our age. It's crazy, bro. I can't believe I got through that season without any insane stuff happening.
It's true, and here's the best thing, right? As we move into Modern Warfare 3, to talk about it, there is some events coming up. There are some dubs on here. There are certainly some wins coming in this.
Good game. That was a good game for me.
First one is going to be with Nadeshot, Saints, and Solo, and yourself. I've never heard of this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. Game Pazzo Lantastic MW3 LAN.
Oh yeah. So that is UMG before it was UMG.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Dude, my roots in COD are extremely, extremely deep, and people, I don't always bring it to light, but so UMG before it was UMG, which by the way, UMG saved Call of Duty competitive on the real. I don't know if you know this for sure. Well, I don't know because you were in the UK. You guys were lit before we were.
Time, yeah.
You guys were lit. You guys had tournaments. You had an infrastructure, at least somewhat. We didn't, and we got dropped from the circuit. We had no funding. And Game Pazzo was a LAN center that was ahead of its time in Downers Grove, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. And they used to, have like little tournaments that they were organizing by just their manager. And then this guy who had some money, who had started a clothing company called UMAD Gear. It was called UMAD Gear. It was kind of cool at the time. It was he was there. Jeff is his name. I almost forgot. Stop, Nebula. Cat's going crazy. And he shows up there and he walks up to me and Ricky, and he was like, "So do you guys have like big tournaments and stuff?" And we showed him pictures, whatever. And he goes, "So what happened?" We're like, "It's just gone. It's not a thing anymore." He goes, "Do you guys think that there's money in this? Like, do you think there's money to be made here?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. Like, we have a huge community." And we spent like a couple hours showing him everything and explaining to him what happened, etc. And he goes, "I'm gonna fucking do it." And he changed Mad Gear to UMG Gaming, and he threw tournament. And it was Lantastic. And it was something else before that, and then became UMG. And UMG was massive for a couple of years, like entrenched in the culture of Call of Duty. So it's wild that it started with that idea in Game Pazzo.
In fairness, that would have never probably happened if anybody just didn't drop all support for Call of Duty. No, I feel like nobody's talked about that back in the day. They just went, "Yeah, we're not doing it anymore," and everyone went, "We've gone from a national circuit to nothing." That's how Modern Warfare 3 just drops off the radar, apart from mostly the European events, because obviously in Europe we were actually having bigger and bigger events, and then the Americans started coming over. But it seemed like a pretty decent year for yourself at the very least.
It was great.
The Iowa Pro Challenge, you joined FaZe.
Yeah, I went to the Iowa Pro Gaming Challenge. I actually was my team. Can you read me my team for that?
Nameless, Solo, and Ricky.
It was just me, Solo, and Ricky. Where's the
there you go, Snowhair.
On Snowhair. I don't. Wait, was that MW3?
Apparently it's MW3. Iowa.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember. Yeah. So I remember. So I was on the first FaZe team for competitive Call of Duty. This is crazy, actually, remembering all this shit. So me and Felonies and Moonstruck, to just walk you through real quick, we were looking for an organization, and FaZe Clan was not the FaZe Clan you know of now. It was a little bit smaller. Sniper Clan back then, still big. And Felonies knew Temper from a Black Ops 1 event. And long story short, Temper spectated our scrims and watched us. And he was like, dude, these guys are nasty. I want to pick them up. So we became the first FaZe competitive team ever. And I have like 65 YouTube videos on their FaZe competitive YouTube channel from the very beginning. And then we ended up, my teammates couldn't go to this event. So I was actually the only player who was on FaZe. I just went with 3 people from Chicago and we drove to Iowa. And Snowhair, Solo, and Ricky are all from Chicago. So I just picked them up and we drove there and we won that. I think we played Big Timer in the finals of that one.
The Iowa one.
Yeah, did we? I think it was Big Timer and
Big Timer and Nade.
Yeah, we
and
played
Sid Rock and Intake.
Yeah, we were on the grind, all of us. We were going around the country, man. We were in Iowa trying to get it in, bro.
Yeah, and then you won that, and then you had a couple of UMGs, 3 actually: the Classic 2012, the Invitational 2012, and the Championships. You ended up winning the Championships with a very good team, actually. And this is a team that I think this is the first time meeting you for myself. Parasite, Nameless, Dido, and Liar.
That was a good team, man.
Yeah.
To its core. We had a very good team. And the unfortunate circumstance of the events not having an infrastructure, we never went to the same tournament. Like, so if we went to a tournament, Optic wasn't there. If Optic went to a tournament, we weren't there. It just never lined up that way. And unfortunately, we didn't get to play each other, but it would have been awesome if we actually got to play them.
Yeah, because you came over to Insomnia 46. Actually, my second time casting. That's when I first met. And proceeded, by the way, I don't know who people know this, but especially back then, the gulf in talent between America and Europe was ridiculous. And you guys just stuffed every single one of our teams.
Yeah.
Wasn't even fun.
At the time, it wasn't because we had been competing since Call of Duty 2, COD 4 at a high level, and we had a whole circuit that you guys didn't have. So they caught up though pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was going to say the unfortunate thing about Modern Warfare 3 is you guys didn't make the end of season tournament, which was in Manchester. The EGL, I can't remember what number it was. I think it was 8, EGL 8, where we had a load of American teams come over, and unfortunately you didn't make that one, which kind of sucked. Because that was like the one that got like tweet out, man. Oh, this is awesome, and we had representatives from Activision there and stuff, and it certainly helped out to like push Call of Duty, at least in Europe, by a big way, where you've got like 130 teams attending a small hall in Manchester. But I mean, you did pretty well out of that. And then, of course, right, as we move out of Modern Warfare 3, we go into what I call essentially the start of the golden era for Call of Duty competitive. This is where things went up a pretty big ratchet. MLG came back in. Activision started getting actively involved with Call of Duty. This is the first time we had Codcaster, because some people have never watched a game of Call of Duty without Codcaster. And let me tell you, back in those days, right, when you had to spectate like Modern Warfare 3 backwards, first of all, there's no mini-map back in Spectator back in those days.
Yeah.
You just had to know where everybody was. And also, if you wanted to change teams, you had to back out, change teams manually, load back in, back out your loadout, and then spectate. Like, how on earth it ever took off as a spectator sport back then is insane.
That's mind-blowing, dude. People love COD.
You just had to know. You just had to know the game so well, the strategies. You're like, if he's here, the other guy's going to be on stairs or whatever, and figure out like what was happening and rapidly flick through. But let's talk about going to Black Ops 2 then, because obviously there are some pretty big tournaments in here, and you've put yourself in a really good position, right? You've had wins in Modern Warfare 3. You're definitely established at this point. And it looks like your first big kind of jump up. So there's a 360 Icons tournament, which you played with Revan, Rizma, and Short Shot. And then
what? I played with Sure Shot in that?
Apparently. That's what I've got down here.
Are you on my wiki?
I am on your wiki.
But go ahead. Sorry.
But while that is an important tournament, the next one is a very important tournament. The qualifier for the Call of Duty Championship. League Play Online qualifier where you join Quantic. I remember you being in Quantic. I feel like that was a big org back in the day. I feel like that was like
huge.
Like such an interesting org. Fizzup, Twiz, and Liar were your teammates for that one. So talk me through this then, because obviously this is like the next level, and it's going to sound funny because we're going to continuously talk about that same point as things keep stepping up through the years.
I'm looking at this.
So the qualifier for the Call of Duty Championship, million on the line. Obviously, you didn't end up going to XP, which was like an exhibition anyway. This is.
Oh my god, I wasn't old enough to go to XP, and my team would have been so good. I can't believe we grazed over that point. But before we get to this, Call of Duty XP, I would have had it would have been me, mainstream, liar, and who would have our fourth have been? It would have been another good player. We would have been so good, dude. Do you know what it was like, Bryce? Do you know what it felt like to watch Call of Duty XP as like somebody who, you know, undeniably in terms of North America, like I was a top 4 top 3 team caliber player at the time. You know, there wasn't a lot of us. Like I was absolutely undeniably at the time. To watch Call of Duty XP and to see like Nadeshot Big Time and them win, it was just like, oh my god, like congrats them, but like I could have gotten top 3 here and it could have changed my life, man. That was tough. I wasn't old enough. I just had to get that saltiness out.
No, that's. I mean, it's happened to a few people. Like we'll talk about Black Ops 2 in a minute, but Black Ops 2 also had what I like to refer to as the scump rule, which a lot of people in Europe were very salty over as well. Because
wild. Insanity. This guy literally, they changed the rule for scump. I can't believe it, bro. They didn't change the rule for me.
That's the funny thing, right? We'll have to talk about this. We'll go off on a slight tangent because I don't know, obviously, exactly what happened, but it did look like from European side, because I think if you're from Europe for the Call of Duty Championship in 2013, you had to be 18. In America, it was 17. And everyone was like, it's been changed for Scump. It's been changed for Scump. It's got to be. Because he was the only like big name 17-year-old they wanted to like bring in. And everyone was just going mad about it.
Throw my cat out of the room, right?
That's no problem. I'll continue this for the people listening and watching in the stream.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
It was, oh, fair enough. It's like it was like the most insane sort of like turn of events, and I still can you imagine if that happened today? Like,
oh yeah,
if it looked like the rules had just changed for one player,
it'd be pandemonium, dude. Like, I remember that happening. I was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me, bro?" Like, dude. And what's wild is, what was it? The rule reverted the year after that.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it lasted.
And
1
John
year.
couldn't go to champs. Like what's going on here? So it was painfully obvious at the time. I don't know how they did that, but
I just can't believe they got away with it. You would never get away with it today. Like, you just couldn't do it. Like, could you imagine? But let's talk about your run to it. So you qualified with Quantic. There was an event in between, obviously, the MLG Winter Championship 2013 with Quantic. You came top 8 in there, which is obviously, it's okay. There's still some money involved. It's not a ton of money. It's a couple $100, but obviously back then, still good. Unfortunately, the big one was right around the corner. Take me to your big experience with Call of Duty Championship 2013.
Craziest event ever, dude. I mean, I went to LA for the first time, I think. I'd only been to Anaheim, so I went to Los Angeles. And just the amount of money that they put into it, like I felt like a superstar, you know. Like we're at a freaking 4-star hotel. They're like have camera crews filming us, you know. I'm doing like press runs and whatever it is, you know, a bunch of video stuff, like stuff that has become like normal now was just like wild back then to me. You know, we had catered food and all this stuff. I was like, dude, what is this? They had this crazy like stadium set up, like this cool, like you don't even see stages and stuff like that anymore. Did you go to Black Ops 2 champs?
I've been to every champs apart from the very last one, which was obviously online. But yeah, I mean, by the way, catering there was great.
it was some of the best catering we've had, wasn't it? It was incredible.
It's like a massive table they just put up in this massive players lounge. It's like, it's still, by the way, still one of the best events I've ever been to. Apart from, and you guys wouldn't have seen this as players, there were the only issues with champs back then was, I think qualification was weird. Because you had,
we qualified for champs back then, Bryce. Do you know what we had to do?
I don't know from your side. I know from our side it was weird.
What did you guys do?
It was because it was that old system where you couldn't. It wasn't double elim. You had to face against another team from the UK. So the UK teams were better than the Spanish teams, all the other teams. So our best team, I don't even think went to Call of Duty champs.
Oh yeah, so there was one team from each region. Okay, so that was weird.
Yeah, so
we only got 8 teams at champs.
You get, because if you remember, they invited some really bad team. There was I think, which was the team I was told off for? Because I got told off for casting that event because it was
the Chinese team.
No, it wasn't. I want to say it's the South African team. And I only got told afterwards that it wasn't even the team that qualified. It was just a random team they had bought,
There's some bad
like
teams.
who'd never played. And I was sitting there and I got like a pull up by the producer because here's the thing. That event, I enjoyed it the most. It was fantastic going to LA, all the rest. One of the worst casting situations I've ever been in my life.
Yeah,
They gave us these
yeah.
massive like metal bars that stuck into your head, and it was solo casting for like 14 hours. Right?
Oh my
I remember
goodness.
Golden Boy looking like he
Oh
was going to
yeah,
die.
you did your own. You did your own. Like you casted every series by yourself because I remember
I think
what you were watching.
I don't think anyone got breaks, but I think occasionally you would get a duo cast. I think the only
Yeah.
person who didn't one day was like Golden Boy, and he looked like he was dead by the end of the day because they just kept you on
Man.
running through the games. And I was solo casting some game where it was so ridiculously one sided. I was like, I don't know what to say here. These guys actually haven't got a kill, like in a hard point, and I'm like, what do I say? Like it's just ridiculous. Yeah, it was interesting. Like I said, it's still one of the best events, but also like I'm so glad things have moved on. But that setup was really nice. It was a really nice champ setup. You could run that same setup today, and it'd still be viable.
Oh, it'd be sick, man. The way the stages were elevated, the crowd was sick. Like it just looked so dope, man. And I just remember thinking, like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Unfortunately, we didn't place that well. We made it out of groups, and we ended up, I don't forget who we even lost to at the time. And we lost to an Italian team, actually. Like, we choked bad. We got like 1v3'd. But the way we qualified for that event, like we did not get good practice. Like this was a time where a lot of people weren't scrimming like they were now. It wasn't the same. You just kind of played with your team, hung out in calls, and had fun. And we qualified through league play, bro. But like, so you had two options to qualify. You either got top 8. Oh, so there was 12 NA teams. There must have been, because you either got top 8 at Dallas, or you had to get top 4 in the league play. And we got top 4 in the league play, which was the longest grind of my life. We had to play 24 hours a day for a week straight. Like literally, like you couldn't take breaks. So you could sleep for 30 minutes. We would get sentry guns and CTF. We'd plant them at our flag after we'd go up 3-0, and we would take a 5-minute nap.
Dude,
my first cup of coffee was during that.
It's those qualifications were brutal. Like here's the thing, right? And I don't want to go too far off on a tangent for this one, but everything you just said there reminds me of when you get people who don't understand esports doing esports. It's like, oh, it's fine. They can qualify through this. It's like the XP qualification. One of them in the UK was like the leaderboards or something, like wins on a leaderboard. And if I remember correctly, and I'll say this quite happily now, if I remember correctly, the ones that qualified from Europe, one of the teams that qualified, him and his mate, one of them would boot the other team, and his mate would be the one who would just continue racking up wins. And that's how he got there. And I'm fairly certain they came second at XP. They walked away with $200,000 or whatever just for booting.
Isn't it insane, dude? And I know of people who confirmed or account recovering to get their matches done in the league play. But we did it legit, and it was hard as hell. So what's done is done, but yeah, that's just wild to think about some of the things that we were subject to back then. That all these new guys don't really have to deal with now. So you're welcome, guys.
Paved the way, certainly paved the way. All right, let's move on from the World Championship then. So I wasn't going to jump into this one too much, but you went to UMG St. Louis and came third. The most interesting thing about this name for this event for me is the team name. It's called Mullet.
Oh,
Mullet.
Yeah, Mullet Nation.
You joined obviously with Sharp, Ricky, and Saints.
Yeah.
And ended up coming third for that one, which is just interesting. The fact that I'm guessing Quantic was out after the World Championship. And after that, you joined Team Unite. Again, another infamous org in Call of Duty history.
Yeah.
And you did okay here. It wasn't anything to set alight the world right up until the MLG PAX Invitational, where you played with Embos, Ricky, and Parasite. And that's really interesting.
That's a notorious team right there, dude.
Very notorious.
From the clips, from the.
I mean, Hilton was your coach, so I know it's notorious.
Yeah, and it's just one event. You see Hilton. It's a notorious, just little blip in Call of Duty history, So speaking of Mullet Nation, that was just UMG St. Louis. We drove around the corner. It was that tournament. Like not a lot of people went to. It was more so set up as like a post champs, bout between Freako Impact and Envy, so they could play each other again.
Yeah.
And we ended up trying to play spoiler at that event, but it was important for us to go there and play well at that point of the game, because we needed to prove that like we can beat these guys, these teams. So we ended up going there and we played both of them. So we played Freako Impact. We lost 3-1. and it was a very close series. And we played Envy and we lost 3-2. But we played Envy earlier in the tournament. We beat them 3-1, played Impact, lost 3-1, and then we played Envy again in the losers bracket, and they beat us 3-2. So we learned at that tournament how good we could actually be, and we made the necessary changes going forward when we picked up, Haggy, and didn't play with Sharp after that, and we realized we could be a threat in that game, and we ended up being like extremely dominant online, and we picked up one major tournament, but we were like super good online in that game.
Yeah, it's also one of those interesting ones because it wasn't long after that obviously Impact back then imploded as well. What seemed like it just went ridiculous. Like after winning the World Championship, that whole team just sort of like lost the plot as far as I'm concerned. Just went off the reservation in almost every single way. And obviously you went to the MLG PAX Invitational, won that as well. Like I said, big win, I think, from decent teams.
Stop Cole's 4-peat.
You did stop Complexity. That's probably like such a significant thing, especially back in those days. People often forget, like obviously there was that brief domination of Impact, and then Complexity rose, and it's like, oh shit, that was a whole different gravy. That team, once they started rolling, you're like, wow, this is a serious team.
And
obviously you cut them down there. The next time we see you actually is at G2. Coming over, and you're actually teaming with half of them. You've got Killer, Parasite, Ricky, and yourself.
Oh man,
I mean, I'm going to point this out. That seems like an interesting team just to be a part of.
Oh, it was super fun. It's definitely super fun. We were by far not even close the best hardpoint team at the time. So leading up to G2, we had played, like 6 or 7 2Ks, and we played Complexity multiple times. And just being completely real, 100% honest, we would smoke them every time we played them. And that could be because we were all in Chicago, whatever, like to Chicago. But we would beat them so often. And I knew that they didn't want to play us. So we didn't get an opportunity to play them, bro. We got ninja diffused. Oh, man. But I'm like looking at it, like we went 9-4 maps and groups. Like we get ninja diffused, bro. And by karma, we would have won that and played Complexity. It wasn't meant to be. We didn't get our match against them. Yeah, it was definitely a fun team. It was a lot of interesting things happening there. Like Killa and Haggy hated each other. Like Haggy despised Killa, but wanted to team with him. And then Killa hated Haggy. So it was just crazy stuff happening left and right, man. It was wild.
I mean, here's the interesting thing. You basically got a front row seat to the destruction of one of the most interesting teams and duos and relationships in Call of Duty history. Like that relationship between that Impact squad. And you've basically, like, as I'm reading through obviously your stuff, you've basically just put yourself front and center of it. So you get to watch Parasite and Killer, and then later you get to watch Parasite and Miracles, and the whole chaos that kicked off. And was it? So here's the thing, because Parasite's actually dominating the news feeds a lot recently. What was it like to play with him at that point in his career, and with Killer as well, right? Or that Impact squad after because this, bear in mind, at this time they were the world champions. They won the world championship. Yeah.
Haggy was the best player in the game when I teamed with him in Black Ops 2. Like, not close. Like, he was better than Krim. He was better than these guys. Like, we played them and he smoked them. Like he was the reason we won. Like, the biggest reason we won that. And he was incredible. And he's so smart. In Search and Destroy, he was light years ahead of everyone. Like, the things that we were doing in Search at that time are higher level than the things that pro teams are doing now. And that could be the game, but we like just it was just wild, the things that you could do and things he came up with, like the standoff strat that he had. It was just, for the time, like for him to think like he did is wild when I reflect back on things we're doing, like double EMPing the trophies, constantly wall banging the fence so somebody can push up, using 2 nades to follow up the double EMP trophy, and to the left of the wall bang, like pinpoint positions that people would go to, like he was coming up with, extreme condition rushes to the center of the map to beat a guy to a certain spot, to simply just pre-fire. It was crazy, Bryce. And for him though, like I think that him being so good and being so confident, it got to his head a little bit, and he sort of became a toxic teammate. But for me personally, he was never that like bad to me, like in terms of being a bad teammate. Like he was never a huge issue when it came to me. And he just had a lot of respect for me as a player. And so I think that's why I never really dealt with it. But yeah, with Killa as well. I mean, he was really good. He's just crazy. Like they're just crazy, man. Like Killa didn't believe in going over strats. He didn't believe in going over strats in S&D.
Oh, that's it.
But I love playing with him at the same time. It's just
He's
that raw passion and
not only
knowledge.
that, but he is one of the funniest individuals I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Like I remember Killer backstage. I can't remember what event it was, and he's basically casting in the players' lounge, like, and it's the funniest shit you've ever heard in your life because it's just the
Yeah,
way he talks, the mannerisms. Like I taught these and everything. It's so funny.
yeah.
I do wish, like with him in regards, like I kind of wish to see what would have happened to him as a player if he had been more serious and less the way he is. Like obviously, you know,
He
he's very
ruined his career
yeah.
in Black Ops 3. Remember when he
Uh,
was on DT or whatever?
I mean, I think he's done a lot, a lot of
Oh yeah,
things.
he is done a lot. But
It's
he
like,
had another, he had a second chance, is all I'm saying, man.
yeah,
Because I wish the same thing. I agree with you. He was such a cool figure. I mean, at the time, like I was like a Killa fan, you know, that was
I
teaming.
still am. I just
Yeah,
I just can't take him seriously at the moment, which is a shame because back then, like, and this is no exaggeration, he was an icon of the Call of Duty scene without any. And we're not even talking about just how funny he is. We're just about how good he is. His personality sort of brings people in. Like back then, so many people would engage with him just on the level of like he's not only a good COD player, but he's also like somebody you just want to watch.
dude. What people forget about Killa, like legit the fans, what they forget is like he was unanimously respected as like that guy. Like people were fans of him. Like pros were all fans of Killa. Like I was a pro for longer than Killa, and I was a fan of Killa. I love this dude. Everybody did, you know, Big Timer, all the Optic guys, all the people who had won championships. Like they were like, that guy's a freaking beast, dude. Um, and you know, team with him was dope, dude. Like he was really really good at respawn, and it's crazy that he evolved into being like the search and destroy guy because he was a respawn specialist back then. Like he figured out the staple game mode of Call of Duty and Hardpoint before anyone. He was the first one to figure it out, you know. And you know, for if it wasn't for him, the whole community wouldn't have learned how to play Hardpoint as fast as they did. He taught the entire community, him and his team, but mainly Killa, how to play Hardpoint.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're about to talk about dropping him now. He
Yeah.
ended up leaving the team, and I'm guessing that's because of Parasite. Miracles came back in, who was unbelievably good.
When is this?
We are moving now from the end of
Oh,
Black
to
Ops
Ghost.
2 to Ghosts, and you're joining Curse LV. Again, another organization which, if anybody remembers their history, was pretty big deal at the time.
Huge,
Um,
huge.
and they even they continued on for quite a while. I don't know what's actually happening with them now. I haven't checked out. But this is another team you've joined here. Stainville's in this one, and then like I said, you put yourself in an interesting kind of position because you ended up basically joining that Impact team further on down the line because Killer left and ended up coming back, and you're
Yeah.
sitting in the old Impact roster.
Yeah. So at the end of Black Ops 2, Killa and Haggy despised each other. And I had an opportunity to like play with either one. Obviously, I chose Haggy because we were like the duo at the time. We had a championship. We teamed with each other on Curse LV, which was a big deal going into Black Ops 2. Curse Las Vegas because we were supposed to get a team house and all these things. You know, it was gonna be lit, man. Like we had a lot of backing there. Like that was my first time having an organization that like really supported me. Like they they didn't pay us monthly, but they were going to, and they were going to get us house and shit. It was big plans, and we made a good, solid professional team to go alongside that. And it was me, Mir, Stainville, and Haggy. And then Killa didn't want to play with us, and Curse LV didn't want to have Killa on the team. And then we went to the first event, didn't play that well with Stainville, and he, to be honest, did not have a good event. So we released him, and we picked up Killa. We convinced them to pick up Killa. It was a work in progress. We got it done, and we were very good. And then they dropped me. We were really good though. Like that team was super nasty.
You were. I mean, there's 2K wins on here. There is also UMG Philadelphia. First time I was at that event. That's a third place again. You know, top 3, nothing to sneeze at. And then it kind of changed for you. And interestingly enough, it did go better for you in the end. Because after that, like you said, you kind of come out. You ended up joining Team Envious, and obviously Envious is an OG org. Ridiculous. This is probably, whenever I think of you, by the way, I always think of Envious Nameless. Like for some, that's very much stuck in my head.
I was on it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that team, dude.
And it was a good team, right? Merc Rambo, Studying Yourself, awesome
Yeah.
team. Came second at the MLG Winter Invitational. There's a few 2Ks in the way here, and we'll kind of skip over them. But you know, you guys were damn good, right? Like, damn good. You came top 6 at the regional final for the Call of Duty Championship. And then, I mean, let's talk about this, right? Because this is where I probably first got to know you as a person. There was a pre-LAN for Envious at the Envious house, and I came over with the manager and the whole TCM team for like a
so
week.
fun.
It was one of the funnest things I've ever done in Call of Duty
ever in my life, dude. It was so fun.
Whole weekend, there's like 10 of us in that house, and I honestly, like, it was such a weird. Like, you probably wouldn't do it again today in that kind of atmosphere because it was just so. While the scrimming did get done, it was such a weird way to think about it because it was almost like just hanging out for a week. Just chilling, going out places, cooking food together, playing poker, and then like it was almost like a secondary thing to play the games, right? It was so ridiculous,
but it was so good, man. So like that LAN that we had that week was so impactful to us getting better at the game, and outside from that, like creating like lifelong friendships that have lasted the test of time. But like, we were scrimming, playing S&D, playing simulated LAN matches all day long, every day against the team that we had respect for, that had respect for us. And, we were playing against the other side of the pond. So we were learning what we hadn't been playing against.
Yeah.
That made us all so much better. You guys were destroying us the first couple of days. Like, it was not close. Then we started to get better. And that's when I got a lot better because I got a lot more comfortable and confident in myself in a LAN environment against other very capable players. But man, was that week was one of the most wild experiences because we were just on a house. You guys were like, let's get Chick-fil-A and stuff like that the first time having it. And it was just so fun, man. In the North Carolina Envy OG house with all the bros. We had the setup in the dining room. That was official, dude. Like that shit was.
It's a nice house. I know I think that's gone now. Like, obviously, like, they've moved, but that was a really nice, really, really awesome experience. And shout out to Hastro for bringing over as many people. Like, yeah, just come over. That's what he said. I think I met him at Atlanta. He said, yeah, just come over. I'm like, all right, I'll come. It'll be a laugh. And we ended up casting some games and just having. Do you remember,
Bryce, when we were bumping Biggie in the SUV to go get food?
Yeah,
dude, that was lit, bro. That was so fun.
It was such a surreal experience as well. And here's the thing, like, even back there with 10 people in the house, there wasn't really like any bad vibes. I think 2 incidences happened, one with your
Mad
team
Cat.
And one with TCM. But other than that, it was just good vibe. The biggest issue, if I remember correctly, was getting people to actually go to bed. Like, you got to go to bed, man. We got to get up in the morning and do this again.
We were prank calling, dude. Mad Cat was prank calling people. It was hilarious, dude.
But that leads us nicely on to the World Championship and possibly, like, in my opinion, one of the highlights of your career because of the run you ended up making. Coming out the back of the TCM pre-LAN, you went to the World Championship and made, again, a run that still people talk about now, that they remember as one of the greatest loser bracket runs of all time.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be.
Yeah, without a doubt in my mind. So let's talk through it, right? Because obviously you guys had to do a very, very difficult kind of run.
Yeah.
You won, first of all. I mean, it wasn't the worst it could have been, but like, you won your first 2 winners bracket rounds against Xfinity, which
whoa, we got to rewind. In the group play, we went to a sudden death. And
really?
Sudden death at the time was a one and done search and destroy.
Oh, I forgot.
And we went 5-5. We went 5-5, dude, and we ended up winning. So it was crazy.
That I forgot about those ways of doing it.
Because if you look at our group, if you click it, we played Intensity, and we're all 2-1, and they have a better map record than us and Immunity, but we beat them in the one and done search.
I forgot the old tiebreaker rule. I really dislike tiebreaker rules because they're never the best.
Yeah.
I still prefer the groups now. It's double elimination groups. It's the fairest way to do it. Win 2 before you lose 2. But you basically came out of that by a slither, and that must have been stressful, right? Like, knowing your entire champs is resting on a S&D one and done.
Dude, you have no idea. Like, the amount of pressure that I was under at the time. I had left college. I moved to North Carolina. I had a scholarship. I had 21st Century Scholars from Indiana because I was adopted by my grandparents. So I had free college, and you can't just leave when you're in the middle of getting free tuition. So I left. And I get to North Carolina and I have no money and I'm in debt. I was using credit cards for everything. And long story short, I remember like study was like Rambo was paying for all study stuff because he was broke. And I didn't want people to know that I was broke at the time. So I never said anything, but I was like, motherfucker, I'm broke too. In my mind, you know? And I was using my credit cards. And I ended up, you know, when we won that one and done, I remember we went to like Fat Burger or something down the street from the stadium, me and Jay. I was like, dude, bro, like we got to turn up in this tournament, dude. I was like, man, like we got to just get top 8, like make like $8,000 or so I can, you know, just live life. And we ended up making that run, bro, off pure passion. Like I needed, if you go rewatch that, I don't get hyped once in any match,
Really?
not once. Like literally every single clutch, every single time. Like there's one time I stood up and I got hyped, and I think it was when we beat Optic. But I literally like 99% of the time I was like, I just gotta fucking win. Like I have to. That's what fueled me there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. That's something I really didn't know back in the time.
Yeah.
And you're right, you never gave any indication to any of us like what was going on with you personally and stuff. We knew about Study because Study wore it on his sleeve. He didn't like Study didn't care. He was like, yeah, I had nothing, and I basically walked away from that event with like 50 grand. But you ended up falling to Strictly Business into that loser bracket. Which is obviously horrible because obviously back in the day, right? Like you just got no money for turning out. You wouldn't get paid out unless you come top 8. Like you got nothing, absolutely nothing. All the work, everything doesn't matter. You get nothing. Today's a little bit fairer. Like obviously, if you're playing that long and stuff, you get some payout. Even now, right? Obviously, it doesn't matter as much because everybody's salaried. But back then, like everybody was like playing for like, yo, I need this money. I need it.
Yeah, you had one tournament a year to make your salary.
Yeah. But it's mad for me to kind of see like just how that is going to go for basically for you and the rest of this, right? Because as you end up kind of running through, so you lose winners bracket, you lose to Strictly Business, you fall down, you go against, and this is the most ridiculous run, by the way. Like I said, TK map 5,
first series, dude, first series. Match, yeah.
First series, map 5. You then play, after that, you play Epsilon from the UK.
Good team. Very good team.
Very good team, including, like, and this is an
Swanee and them, yeah.
Infamous moment, by the way, that you probably remember, the clutch against Epsilon you made.
Yes.
Because there was a box on Freight that ended up being called Swanee for quite a long time in the UK because he mantled on it instead of taking the gun, because he accidentally mantled on it when trying to take the gunfight with you. And you basically just ruined Europeans' like lives.
Yeah,
that clip is somewhere. Like I've seen that clip several times. It gets brought up every now and again.
It's
of you
insane, dude,
basically like slaughtering European hopes. You then take on TR. That's a 3-0. Like this is the first time you've actually had like an easy, easy. Sort
well,
of
what happened here was what happened here was okay. So we were all playing pretty good in group play. I was non-existent, Bryce. I didn't do anything. Like I was not good. Like I was getting shit on. We go to losers bracket, and versus TK, we had like an okay series as a team, but we got by the skin of our teeth. And then versus Epsilon, I had a good series, but that moment where I got that 1v3 is like unlocked like my ultimate potential or something. Like I remember feeling that moment, like, holy fuck, like dude, I'm nasty. And I looked out in the crowd, and there was like a bunch of my pros and my peers, and after we won, I like walked off and they all dapped me up like, good shit, good shit, good shit. And I don't know if they realized that they were like gassing me up in that moment. Hey babe, welcome back. And I got a lot of confidence. And for the next like 3 matches, I just started dominating. Everybody played well, but we started destroying. Like we had I had like a 1.7 in search in that TR match. Like I remember these matches and how how good we felt during them. But up until that point, we had like no confidence, and it felt like pure luck when we would win a series.
If I remember correctly as well, like you and Study definitely started getting that confidence as well, because I remember you two as a duo like just locking shit down, like absolutely locking shit down. Study was obviously going berserk at that time as well, and you had a pretty good run. Yeah, you played Trident, then you actually got the revenge against Strictly Business to knock them out of the tournament.
Smoked them. We played them in search, and they didn't get a single kill until the last round. Did you know that?
No, I didn't
It's
know
the
that.
most we had the so that is the most dominant search and destroy map in the history of Call of Duty. Not close. Maven talks about it all the time. We play because he casted that or watched it or something. I don't know. We played them. I think he actually casted it. Yeah, we played them all the way up until the last round. They didn't have a single kill to their name in their whole team. And then Study was doing 360s in the center of the map and gave them a kill. And we ended up winning, and they had one kill.
Oh, that must have really demoralized them as well. And I'm guessing, right, that kind of dominance pushed you onto your next map. Like you said, you took down OG. That knocked them out, right? They went down because they lost to Complexity. Very just in the last round as well. And then you got to face the infamous Complexity in the final.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
matchups, man, they were way better than us.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you made this incredible run. And if it wasn't that specific team standing in your way,
oh, we would have won, bro.
you would have won. You would have won. Like, there's, you basically have beaten everyone else on the run here. But here's something I was going to ask you about, because I feel like you're one of the people who can at least understand it from playing against them in that era. Because people talk about the legacies of Complexity and Optic and everything that's come back and forth in between. Playing Complexity back then just felt a different way, in my opinion. When watching and casting them, it just felt different. I don't know. It's almost like they've got like a mythical quality now. Obviously, rose tinted glasses, 7 years down the line. But from your point of view, like, what made them so outrageous? Essentially, like they never felt like they would lose back in those days.
Yeah. So I felt that way in Black Ops 2. In Ghost, I didn't feel that way. Actually, in that championship, like, I felt like I was just straight shitting on them. But in Black Ops 2, up until like after, so there was a point earlier in the game. So let me try to remember. It was like Anaheim time when they rose up and they started like being really, 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 really good. There was a few times I played against like Krim and Clay, Aiksten. I was like, how the fuck is anybody ever going to beat these guys? They have 4 like unbelievably talented players. But when I beat them at PAX, I gained like a confidence that allowed me to never feel like that again. It just comes down to like, you had to have like stolen a map from them or something, but there was legitimate fear when you saw them in the bracket that you're about to play Complexity. Like, you're fucked. You know what I mean?
It was weird. It was such a weird thing back in those days.
Yeah, but like, and for majority of people, it was like that. But I had beaten them before, so I didn't exactly feel that way. But there were like situations where I would be like about to play them, and I won't even say the teammate's name, but they'd be like, "Fuck, dude, I hope they lose," like, and it would just be like, "Dude, you really think like that?" Like they're not that good. But I remember that feeling of like, "Fuck, whoever plays Complexity, they lost." It was really like that. It hasn't been like that in a while. Like a team that's been that dominant,
I always feel like they just had the best marketing department, like, because everybody knew, everybody who played them back in those days was like, oh shit, where are they in the bracket? Don't bet against them because they play mind games. It was mad. But here's the thing, like, you got all the way to that main stage, right? You got to the main stage, up for the big prize, and you still walked away with a very healthy amount of money. Let's not kid ourselves. Very generous, especially back then. What was it like kind of walking out of that tournament then? What were the emotions going through? Because obviously, here's the thing. You lost, obviously, in the grand final. Devastating. But silver lining, second place is very, very admirable. And that big check probably softened the blow a little bit.
Dude, it was the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my life. Like, I remember just winning each one. I'm like, oh, that's 25K. Let's go. That's 50. Let's go. We're standing out in the back, getting ready to walk out. And I'll never, even though we lost, I'll never forget it. Like, we're standing there, the smoke's coming into the stage, and we're looking across there to our right, and we're like, yo, let's fucking go, dude. Like, let's get this shit. Like, we're hyping each other up, like, yo, this is like the moment of our lives, the 20 championship. And we were walking out there. And it just, that feeling, like, you'll never forget it, looking out to the crowd and knowing everybody's like watching you guys, and then leaving it and getting back and just being like, and like actually knowing that I just was grinding for like 3, 4, 5 months. And I risked everything by leaving my hometown to go to North Carolina and making it worth it and winning money, and just being like, let's go. This is something I can do. And then getting second at champs, also gaining like the undeniable respect of all my peers, what felt super good too, because it was like, I got second at this game in champs. This was in April, so we had the rest of the game to live out, right? So
Yeah.
it's like nobody could say shit to me besides Complexity, and they wouldn't say shit to me either because they respected me because I played so well against them. So it was a really good feeling, you know. And I was able to just comfortably play the rest of that game and know like my way worked, like the way I thought about Call of Duty was right, and I wasn't, you know, wrong about a lot of stuff that I had been preaching for years, or you know, just the way I went about it. It was just justification, like this is right. The decisions I made were right. And it just felt good.
I mean, that's awesome to hear, man. Like, speaking of that, like, obviously that is it's just, I feel like it's, especially back then, life-changing money.
Oh yeah,
Because it
dude.
just allows you to almost relax, but not like, because you're never going to relax, especially the competitive edge is never going to go away. But it probably takes some day-to-day stress off. Like, oh, I'll be all
Oh
right.
man, yeah. It took, dude. I paid off all my debt, like a couple grand, and then I didn't have to pay rent because I lived in the Envy house, and then obviously Hastro believed in me, so I was gonna be there for a while, and it just took all the stress off, bro. Like I was just chilling, you know. It felt super good, and then I was able to string together some more tournaments,
Yeah,
and
it goes pretty well.
yeah.
It does go pretty well. So looking at this, we're looking at like the season 1 playoffs. Top 4, UGC Niagara. Second, you lost to EG again when they were switching over to EG. And then like there's the X Games, the X Games Invitational. You come fourth. You were one away from a medal, man.
Dude, I hate looking at that because I got fourth both times at those, and man, I love him, dude. You win as a team, you lose as a team, but Parasite cost me at both X Games, bro. I'll come out and say, you know me, I'm always gonna be outspoken. He cost me about those. He'll say it to this day. He cost me two X Games medals, bro.
Just off of his game,
Just,
or
I mean, he just played really bad at those tournaments. He said like the conditions were conducive for him. It was like too hot or something. He dropped like a 0.5 at both X Games. I played at both X Games with him. That shit sucked, dude. That shit really. So, you know, before X Games, because we were number one on the season ladder, like by a lot. And we were like, okay, we're gonna go here. We're definitely getting a medal. And we lost. I don't remember who we lost to. Let me see. We lost to TK. Yeah, sheesh, man. Yeah, that sucks, dude. I regret that to this day, but it's all good. It's all good.
Well, fortunately, it doesn't go too badly for the rest of you. I mean, we've got things like the regular season of the COD League. You came third, but we'll move forward a little bit swiftly here because there is in my opinion, a big event, and here you come over to the UK again for G3.
Yeah.
And you ended up winning this tournament. In fairness, this was like was going to be the background of your like picture for the thumbnail. But I couldn't find a good one. I couldn't find a good picture of you guys on stage winning that event. But that was an awesome win, man. Like, because that was a packed crowd. Like
Lost
big,
one map
crowd.
the whole tournament.
Yeah, you guys smoked everybody. Absolutely everybody. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
You played Epsilon in the final, right? If I'm correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, we played Epsilon.
They had a really good tournament run as well. They took that, like, they were just taking people down left, right, and center until they played you guys, and then you just ruined everybody in the UK's hometown of their thing.
Dude.
But that's another.
Yeah, dude. We were good, bro. Sorry for cutting you off. My thing, but we were good as hell at that time. I was delusionally confident during that tournament. There was everybody was complaining about the monitors.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, guys, well, we're gonna win. You know, I was like, this is the coolest venue we've ever had aside from Black Ops 2 Champs with the dopest crowd, bro. That event in my mind was like the from a fan perspective, like the coolest one ever, bro. I remember walking around with like Embos or, you know, Formal or people, and mobs of fans literally charging us, like actually surrounding us. I have a vlog on my YouTube, Road to an Adventure, Road to a Championship, Gfinity Adventures. It's on my YouTube if anybody who watches this wants to go back and look. But you'll see in the video fans circling around us. Like, I feel like that heavy fandom isn't the same as it was back then. Call of Duty was big, bro. I mean, it's big now, but it was big at this time, especially in the UK. It was massive.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the UK kind of crowd has transformed with the 18+ thing. That was the thing as well back then. Obviously, that was a young crowd because we had there was 4 stages of that event. We had FIFA, Counter-Strike, StarCraft, and COD. And COD absolutely ran the stadium so much. If you remember it, we split it into 4. and COD had
Yeah.
one of the long sides. We had to open up one of the short sides that we took. FIFA was moved, and we had to open that up to put another screen on so people can watch. It was like 4,000 plus crowd. It was huge.
4,000 people, dude. It was crazy. And I remember I was walking to get a hot dog, Bryce, and literally Bose was like, he was trolling me. He was like, yo, G, we got to get out of here. And he started jogging. So I started jogging after him, and they charged us, dude, and surrounded us. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, dude, we have fans, bro, like real fans, you know, like it was just like, this is dope. And that crowd, man, they were get so hyped, and the way it was set up, like the stadium seating like that. It was, I don't know why we don't do that anymore. That shit was crazy, bro. But yeah, we won that, and it was lit. I set up a GoPro in the soundproof booth like this to catch all of our comms and stuff, and we got super hyped then. I was getting hyped now. That's personality. I was like, I'm gonna win this shit.
Because obviously here's the thing. Cap almost gave me an aneurysm that tournament. I've never really told the story, but I think it was actually. So if I remember correctly, it's Parasite's fault. It might be Parasite, but Cap. Basically, like, so here's the weird thing, and I explained this actually on a thing with App. So I was in charge. I was actually doing like 4 jobs that event at G3 because I worked for Gfinity. So I was talent manager for all 4 games, as well as like stage manager, doing the production stuff and casting. Yeah. And Cap's like, I ain't playing on this monitor. Like, and what had happened?
JCap said that?
JCap said, I'm not playing. Look at this. The blacks are wrong. It's different to the screen next to him. And he was right. And the problem was, because it was a small startup company, like, and I jumped into stage manager to get the game back on track. Like, everyone was in like panic mode, like trying to get the game under control so we get the game on and everything.
Hello.
So like we changed the monitor, we changed the X, we changed everything. Turns out the entire time, all it done is somebody changed it from computer RGB to studio RGB, and it just changed the look of the colors and the blacks. And that's
yeah.
And it was one of the players before, I'm sure it was Parasite, who changed the settings on the console, and it set us back like 25 minutes because everybody was just
Cap
like
was particular about that, dude.
Yeah, he wasn't letting it go. We were like, "Can you play?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh shit."
I don't even remember this. I remember us not caring about the 5 millisecond thing, but I don't even remember that. That's hilarious, dude. What a diva. You was getting carried out of it anyway.
Here's the thing about that 5 millisecond thing. Right, so obviously I was there and like playing on IARMAs and stuff. We had, and I don't think this story's ever been told from G&E, but I'm fairly certain I can tell it now. They won't be upset. There was meetings with IARMA about the sponsorship for their monitors. We were assured over and over and over again it's 1 millisecond, over and over and over again.
They relied.
And the thing is, I don't know what happened, but I'm fairly certain like it was only 1 millisecond. I think it was something to do with the splitters we were using, because back then you had the screens on the front of the stage, and something to do with the way that it was set up wouldn't allow it to be 1 millisecond. It had to be so specific, like settings and everything, to get that 1 millisecond, and that wasn't explained to like us at Gfinity. Like it was just, these
players noticed it instantly.
They were not happy at all. I don't think it was as bad as the Birmingham one everyone talks.
That was the worst.
But like it was. Trust me, by the way, like when I was working for that company, there was nothing more stressful than the players going, "These are shit." And I'm like, "Oh god, that's our sponsor. It's our main sponsor for this stage." All the players just doing that, going, "This is shit." I'm like, "Oh no, oh it's so bad. It's so bad, man."
Dude, that monitor was like, I knew I had an edge because I didn't feel the 5 milliseconds, and everybody's complaining about it. I'm like, yo, I don't even notice it, bro. So that felt good. Yeah.
Here's another thing, and I got to ask you this, right? As a player yourself who's played for this long, can you feel it? Like, is it ever been one of the things where you thought maybe like players are overthinking it? Because that's happened before, right? Players are convinced something has changed, nothing has changed, or anything like that, and that's the worry of the community, because the community isn't ever playing at that high level, so sometimes they don't understand those sort of things.
Yeah, so I think typically if there's a few pros talking about something there being an issue, I think there's some truth to it. Because I've had situations where people have thought I was insane for saying I needed a new PS4, but like at least result-wise and performance-wise, I had indisputable, at least something. There was something there. Like there's evidence. I won't say indisputable, but there's evidence that there's some weird stuff going on with PlayStations, with monitors at times, with Cronus's. But yeah, I definitely think if a couple pros talk about it, there's some truth to it. And with the monitor thing, I think they were absolutely on point. I just think some people don't notice it and they're able to adapt well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had times where I've used a Cronus and I've had like two in front of me, and one of them feels like shit, one of them feels great. But I've been assured that they're both optimized the same, and that's just not the case. And I know I'm not crazy, so I definitely think there's some truth to the things that when a lot of pros are talking about it, I think there's some truth to it.
I mean, because that's happened in all Call of Duty history. Like the side of the stage is always winning. The Godbox PS4s. I mean, the Ethernet cable I think is the worst one. That was obviously killer back in the day, blaming it blue versus yellow Ethernet cables.
Yeah, he got kind of crazy with it. But these side of the stage things and stuff like that, Bryce, like there's way more to it, you know, like there's things where like one side of the stage hadn't been reset for a while. I don't know the way we didn't know how the way things were being handled, how they were handled. Like we didn't know how often the routers were reset. Yeah. So I was always on the side of like, yeah, there's some weird shit going on. I mean, do you remember? Sorry to go on a tangent, but do you remember ESWC AW when that one side of the stage just fucked up everyone? Like FaZe had played there, fried, and then moved sides and got fried. Like what the hell was that? It was just bizarre.
I'll be honest with you. The ESWC ones I'm just always going to believe because of the amount of basically shit that happened at those tournaments.
Yeah.
I think I've told this story before, but I don't think I'll ever work for ESWC again, so I'll tell it again. So the first time Activision like properly got involved with the ESWC, obviously I met with you know Drake, and he's come over and he's like, I've got in a taxi with him because obviously I've been doing the ESWCs for years. And he's like, oh, how is it normally? And I looked at him and went, it's awful. It's one of the worst events of the year. And he's looking, he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. He goes, but we were all told it's good. I went, no, the crowd's good. Everything else is dreadful. Cue to the next like 4 days has been the most stressful days of his life as like the production staff just leave and just disappeared to go for a cigarette break or just don't turn up early. And it's like the most mad thing ever. Like I just sort of like break down. And that's probably the reason we don't go to ESWC anymore is because they just couldn't do it properly. But we've got an tangent. Let's get back on. Let's get back on with all of this. So we went from G3 to UMG Dallas. You ended up coming second at that event, which, if anything, right, kind of cemented your win at G3 because you're like, yeah, we definitely are the best team, or at least the top two teams here at the moment, right?
What happened there was that was probably the coolest experience of my life. We went on a Euro tour after we won G3. We stayed there. We stayed there for 2 weeks. So we won G3. And Merc went home because of family stuff. But me, JCap, Formo, and Hastro, we went to Barcelona, we went to Rome, and then we went to Gamescom because I did the reveal for the new game. And then we went home, scrimmed one scrim, and then went to the tournament, and we got second. So we didn't scrim for 2.5 weeks and got second. That was lit.
That's pretty good, actually. Like going around the houses and coming back to that one, right? Like, that's I mean, back in the day you could probably do it, but now you'd probably be like, no, you're coming home and getting ready for the scrim. But yeah, the rest of it didn't go too badly for you. Obviously, we talked about ESWC at the end. Top 8 with them. UMG Nashville, top 6. You know, it's the same team. You ended up staying with this same team, the Envious team, for a while.
We won Season 3 playoffs, too.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's in here. Some of these I end up skipping over because I missed them because there's so many like 2K spread about. I end up glazing over. The MLG COD League Season 3 playoffs, you are completely correct. And here's where it gets interesting. The end of Ghosts. And you probably know what I'm going to ask you now, right? We're going to talk about the drama, the insanity that ended up happening with team changes.
They were sketchy as hell, bro. Like to this day, it was crazy. Like at ESWC, they were scheming. We had just won. We had just won Season 3, right? Like we just won 2 back-to-back tournaments and got second. So we got basically first, second, first, and whatever. We were the best team in the game for sure. And then we get to ESWC and Cap pulls me to the side mid-tournament, by the way. We hadn't even lost yet. And he pulls me to the side like Saturday night and he's like, yo, I think they're going to drop me and you after this tournament. I was like, what? And in my most immature thing I've ever done in Call of Duty history, I threw the match the next day. I made my name free agent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just ran around with the pistol the whole game.
Oh.
I mean, we were a lock to win that tournament, right? Like our only competition was, EG, and they had Dito on their team, and we had just Dito, Teep, Crim, and Aix, and we had just obliterated them at the tournament prior to that.
Yeah.
And we just I gave up. I just started pistoling and shit. I didn't care. Um, and yeah, they ended up not doing that though, because we had a discussion. Cap brought it up at dinner. I was like, he was just like, Stro, what the fuck's going on? That's literally what he said. And then that all happened, and he ended up keeping us. And probably not the best decision on Hastro's side. He should probably dropped us, but it all worked out for
he
him.
was going to have the a God Squad essentially. That's what he wanted.
Well, I would have been on Optic too. That would have
yeah,
been lit.
you ended up, but I mean, back then it was so much drama. Like I remember it just being, because I remember hearing about it. I'm like, this is insane. And then it just kicked off, because if I remember correctly, like EG were also going through the same similar sort of pains, because obviously they were another part of the conversation, players from that team, and they were just falling out as well. It was the most like dramatic tournament for just because of team changes that weren't involved with the tournament. It was going to happen after.
Well, the top 3 teams were in a shuffle. Us, Optic, and EG. Like we were in a shuffle.
Yeah, and obviously, people weren't very happy about it. But you did stay on this team, and obviously Formal did leave. You ended up getting Clay for it as we go into AW. And I've asked a few people this question as well. Going from boots on the ground to this brand new mechanic of Jetpack, like how did you feel when that hit?
Immediately I thought I knew how to play it, but I mean, eventually when people started to drop strategy, I've been playing COD at this point. I mean, think about all the tournaments we just went through since Call of Duty, whatever. Everything I thought about playing COD was thrown out the window. Like if you think about it, the same people were good every year up until this year, and then you just get an influx of new culture, new players, right? I'd never had to think about my movement and shit. Like, it was just a drop strategy. So majority of when you see this big performance dip in AW was I didn't know, and Joe as well, me and Merc didn't realize that strategy and playing the game the right way was not needed in AW. So we had just went from a year where we excelled with our strategy and got second at champs with a team that was not talented, not as talented as other teams. And now like you need talent, and you need those crazy cracked out players who aren't playing with strategy. And we didn't realize that until like the end, which was too late. Too much damage had been done.
Yeah, so I was gonna talk through this, right? So it's not a lot of gold on this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think there's a 2K from UMG, one of them, and then it's like Columbus Open top 6. The next then you've got more series. There's so many series here.
We were really good in the beginning of the game, bro.
Then UMG Orlando top 12, and this is like obviously once you start getting these results, how does it feel as a player, right? Because you've gone from second at a world championship, like you just said, to starting to get used to placing well, being one of the most, at least dominant or at least influential players in the scene, to starting to get a run of bad events, right? Like top 8 and top 16 are devastating to most players and teams. They really, really suck. Eventually, there is some team changes coming up. But how did that make you feel? And just everything, man, because that's so bad on the psyche.
So I mean, basically throughout my career up until this point, I had been in the, like my team had been the best at some point in the game, right? And every game we went over, I've had like a little time where my team was the best at some point. And the way the year started, when we were solid, we just missed a lot of opportunities. There was a lot of missed opportunities. I remember I'm looking at some of these tournaments. We got top A. We did good at the first, what was it? For season 1 playoffs where we got top 6. We were one map away from top 3. I remember that. And then after that, like shit went downhill. When we didn't place at champs, we got top 12 at champs. I had been on Envy for a while now, and everybody had their team. These new pros had come in as well, and I got top 12 at champs, and I got dropped from Envy. With me and Hastro parted ways, and I ended up going to TK, and it was just that decision. It comes down to like a decision, like right there, you're in like a rebuild phase where you still have like your clout, whatever, and you have to make a decision on like what team to join and where to bring your brand. And I made the wrong decision, and it just didn't end up working out, and that happens, but a lot of damage had been done. Like if I would have joined a different team, or if that team would have been better, we would have turned it around, my name, I could have salvaged my reputation in AW. But in this point, since that team didn't perform well, I ended up having to completely start from scratch going into the next one, but it felt pretty bad. You know, like I felt like I was better than a lot of the people that were on good teams and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just tough, dude. And you have to team with players you didn't necessarily want to team with, their players that you had been beating for a while. So it was like fuck, it sucked. And then you revert back to old ways. You could see I enter a cycle after that, right? If you look
But
at the teammates.
yeah, I can. I mean, obviously, there's a team change there we need to talk about. You know, picking up Saints and Zuma to join Team Envious. Um, was that like? Is that like a we need to adapt here and try to get back in our ways?
Yep.
And you and Merck obviously had probably spoken about this and said, yeah, we need to figure out how to
Yes.
get some cracked players in for AW.
Exactly.
Were
You're
those
spot on.
conversations ever difficult for you, by the way? Like changing teams?
Uh, well, for me personally, with that team, it was really difficult because it was tough, man. Like Clayster had just gotten dropped from Optic, and we picked him up, and he was really demoralized, and it was just we weren't getting it all out of Clayster, and we ended up, dropping him in JCap. We actually kind of wanted to keep Clay. We only wanted to drop Cap, right?
Yeah.
But we really wanted Zoomer or Saints, like one or the other. We're like, one of you guys just joined for Cap, because Cap had a really bad event, like really, really bad, like 0.3, 0.4 bad. I think he got like a concussion or something from some story that doesn't need to be told. But he played really bad at a tournament, and Hastro was like not having it. He was like, we needed to drop Cap, and then we were like, okay. And I think Hastro had a lot of beef with Cap also from the end of when Cap released that Reddit thread. So he wanted to drop Cap. He didn't play well. We were down with it. And the only way we can get Saints or Zuma was to pick them up as a package. And me and Joe weren't going to, split ways. So we ended up dropping JCap and Clay. And we pick up Saints and Zuma. And to be quite frank, they just wouldn't listen to us. And to be honest, they were probably onto something. We were probably wrong when a lot of things we were trying to drill in their brains, because we were just better than them the whole last year. So we're trying to teach them how to play. They're not listening. And we just have like these two guys here, us two here, like polar opposites collide, right? Parallel collide. And it didn't work. But we were still solid. Like we were still solid though. Like we had opportunities because of our talent alone. And we got top 6, and we had beaten, Optic Nation, and we were going on to try to make a run, and it just didn't work out. And, due to us trying to drill the wrong play style into Zuma's brain, he had his worst performance that I've ever seen Zuma have. And I think that he just wasn't able to be free. And I wish we would have just let him be free on the map.
I suppose it's those little things as a player you just agonize over like afterwards, because you can tell like back then, like hindsight is obviously always 2020. But so many players I've ended up speaking to over the years, like they remember the smallest details of, damn man, we could have done better here, here, and here.
There's little things we could, but if I went different in my career, such a different spot, dude.
I mean, fortunately, you're in a pretty good spot as it is, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And you never know what would have happened down the line. But normally on these, I always cover the World Championships here, and obviously your 2015 one wasn't a great finish. Top 12 with the team, and that obviously ended your tenure with Envious as well. Was that result at Champs part of the reason?
Yeah. To be honest, man, I remember what this felt like. I've never even told this. I felt kind of bad with the result of that Champs performance.
Yeah.
And like that was my opportunity to kind of like be the leader. I mean, I was like the leader. Me and Joe were like the captains and stuff, and at the end of Ghost. But I felt like in that game, Joe sort of took like the back seat because he wasn't that great at it, and I sort of became the leader. And a captain falls with the ship, right? So like,
yeah,
when we lost at the Champs, I remember talking to Strone. I was like, I respect your organization too much. I honestly don't know who I could pick up that would want to play with me at this point that we would win championships with. NVS has a lot of reputation. I was like, if we can find another team to trade me to, I think it'd be in best interest to like split us up, right? And he was like, yeah, I hear you out. I mean, I think he would have still kept me on the team, but I don't think he would have got a good roster. So I ended up just going to TK and letting him build a new team, which it worked out for Envy. But I remember just feeling like I failed badly during that time. I also had a really big ego in AW because of what happened in Ghost.
Yeah.
And I started to go like wild like during that time in terms of practice.
Was that,
you guys are fucking idiots.
Was that like But is that maturity coming afterwards, like recognizing that you were essentially a bit of a dick back then, like with the way you were conducting yourselves? And I suppose it's even more kind of piling on because of the stress, right? Like if you think a lot of yourself and you are like having a go at teammates and basically like almost egoing them, but more or less, but then the results still aren't coming. You just get more and more frustrated and angry at the situation.
Absolutely. I mean, during that time, like I had such a chill vibe, and like we had a rule on our team to never get hyped or excited, just be like robots and play when it was me, Formal Cap, and Merc. And then,
Yeah.
going into the next game when we picked up Saints and Zuma, just seeing how undeveloped their mindsets were and how, you know, how angry they would get and stuff, and it would frustrate me, and then it would pull that side out of me as well, because everybody used to be like that. Like backup skill standing up and screaming at people.
Yeah.
So like that came back out, and I sort of lost my ways when it came to that, and that went away for a while. I started to become like toxic for a bit throughout AW. It was probably my most toxic year. It was just anger, I think mostly.
Yeah, no, I mean I can understand that entirely. Like I said, as we look through, obviously you ended up joining TK, as we've said. Sharp Gunjar and Parasite, your teammates. The results, being blunt here, don't really
Horrible.
Yeah, they weren't great.
I don't.
You got a fourth at playoffs. You know, we can say you got a fourth at playoffs.
Bro, I don't even remember that. Dude, I went to like Europe twice with that team. Except like I don't even. Dude, that was the most stressful team I've ever been on in my freaking life, bro. I never want to experience that again, Bryce. It was like terrible, bro. Like Haggy was raging at people, like getting ready to fight, dude. Like that's where he gets a bad rap for his attitude during that. Like he had just got third at champs, right? And he was on that team. Like I get it why he was so mad. Like that team was, man, that was a headache,
Toxic,
bro.
I believe is the is the word.
Yeah, it was bad.
You end up, so here's the thing: there is a win on here during this period, because it's so left field, and I had to figure out what this event was. The DreamHack Summer Invitational when you went to Europe.
Oh yeah.
By the way, the most ridiculous tournament.
I don't even count that. I don't even count that.
It was just you versus, I think it was like the Nordic champions, and like Envious was like,
their shit.
it wasn't even. I remember saying like when I was casting it like before, I was like, you realize this could be over quick, right? Like it's gonna be over quick. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, these guys are Nordic champions and they're not a terrible team. I went, but these guys like would struggle top 16 in Europe. Like, Effie's about to come over and just ruin this entire thing. But it was nice. They set us up at a nice place. It was a nice kind of exhibition match.
It was in Sweden, bro. That shit was lit.
Oh, it was actually at the big DreamHack event as well. It was like
can't believe
a massive stage. Unfortunately, that highlight. There are some events here like the Gfinity Championship you come over for, top 12. Picked up at UMG Washington, you came top 6 there. And that was with a very iconic team actually for TK. Had Neslo, Theory, and Sharp. That's one of the teams I always think about when I think about TK.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing like this is one of the periods, by the way, when we speak about Call of Duty back in these days, go and look at your team list just for AW alone. The amount of people you teamed with is phenomenal. Because it was just constant changes all the way through.
It was too much, dude.
Like a dozen people.
Blur, bro. AW is a blur. I teamed with so many different people. I lived in 2 different houses, 2 different team houses, like North Carolina to Atlanta. It's just crazy.
Like you didn't, honestly, it's got to be at least a dozen different players over this. Because even then, we change again, right? The World Championship is coming up. Sorry, I've skipped too far ahead. The World Finals is coming up, right? You play with Embos, Miracle, and Ricky. Again, it's another top 12 for you guys. You must have been so done with AW at this point. Like, you must have bury that game, never let it come back.
It was the worst game ever. I fucking hated that game, bro.
I can see why. I can see why.
I had a terrible year. I mean, it was just a bad year. Bad year, dude. It destroyed my stock in COD. Oh man, that was stressful.
I can see that. You end up joining Complexity as we move into Black Ops 3. One of my favorite games actually. For this, and the results get a little bit better as we go through.
We were good at this game. We were good.
Like there's the regular season, the challenge division, there's some top 6s going on. Your team is interesting again. You're still with Parasite once again here. Like every time we talk about this, it's like, oh yeah, you love him. At the same time, you just remember like the breakdowns. Of everything he did here. But yeah, Black Ops 3, you end up with them. 16,000 from the playoffs of the Stage 1 division.
We did good, yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. And then obviously not good enough for you because you ended up changing teams here to LG.
Yeah, I left them. They were too toxic. They hated each other.
Yeah.
I actually left them to go join Luminosity. It was a great decision too, because that was a team that had a lot of hunger that needed a leader. And I went in there and I did that. I think I joined for TP. So
Yeah.
it was I enjoyed that team a lot. I love that team.
Yeah, I can see why you start picking up at least some prize money in this one, I can say. And like, I think probably the biggest uptick before we go too far on was like the Pro Division Stage 2 playoffs. By the way, just as a tangent, I hate the way that all these things were named back then. Like, it's so good. I just like it. I like the system that the recent one was like, oh, it's just Vegas, Dallas, Anaheim, bang, bang, bang. You're like, these are the big majors. Everything else, like, so weird to break down. But yeah, top 4. Obviously, it's a top 3, 4 with Space Elite Saint Study and yourself on LG.
Bro, big win. We beat the Dynasty Optic team at that event.
Yes, very much. And that, bearing in mind, right, what we've just been talking about, very dark time for you in your career. That must have been at least a little bit of an uplift, walking away with some good money.
Oh, dude, it was. I had some tough times during that, AW, and then I had a good bounce back here. I started off the year pretty good. I got that Totino's Invitational. Getting top 4 at that was like pretty big because it was like, okay, I'm fucking good at this game, And we got top 4 at one of the ESL events. And then I'm looking at and then we did good at the Anaheim tournament. We just the year just like turned around for me at this time because I was like, my team was a top 4 team, like me, LG, we were good. We were pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah,
that team was pretty good. Let's lead us up to the World Championship. And while you still worked away with 30,000 as a team, you ended up coming top 12, top 9 to 12 there. What happened? Because
we were better than that though.
Yeah, you guys were better than that.
We played Optic and then Rise back to back, so we got like really unlucky. Yeah, so we played. Where's it? Winners bracket. Yeah, we played Rise. So we played Allegiance round 1 of winners. Yeah. We won that. Then we played Rise, and then we lost. And Optic lost, and then we played Optic. So we just got fucked. like we literally played Rise and Optic back to back, and those are like, they had got finals. They were like 2 of the best teams in the entire lifespan of the game.
Rise was unbelievable, and Optic was also, a lot of people thought they might win that event. I mean, they ended up going out, right? But
yeah.
So that's crazy. And that happens to players sometimes. Like one of the things that players sometimes says, like, look, we lost to 2 incredible teams. There's not a lot we can do about it.
Well, I know people say you obviously we're supposed to beat everyone, but like what I'm trying to say is like we weren't 9 through 12. Like we were a top 6 team for sure. We just happened to play 2 top 3 teams like and lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what happened there.
I feel like one thing, because we're going to move into IW now, right? And one thing we definitely need to talk about is obviously joining EG, but something we haven't spoken about so far is your relationship with Study.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is not only a frequent member of your team, sort of going through your career, but you ended up obviously going with him when you're first on the casting desk as well. But like, what was your relationship with him? Because I remember you 2 being the duo for quite a while.
Yeah, dude, we're like, I mean, that's like, I consider him family at this point. I mean, like, he's gonna be at every major life event for me, and likewise for him. Like, we just like our lives changed together, and we loved playing with each other. And we learned a lot about Call of Duty and life in general, like little foundational things about how to live life. We learned as just a duo. So we teamed together a lot, and whenever needed to get out of a bad situation or something, we'd bail each other out. We provide each other with opportunities, and to this day, even in what we're doing now, like if I have a way to help him out, I will. If he has a way to help me out, he will. It's just like one of those types of relationships, it's a really good friend to have.
So is it that sort of bond that kept you teaming with him all these years, or was it also like, I mean, being perfectly honest, his personality is great. Like he seems like a very much motivated, happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Well, I think I just understood his potential, and a lot of people wouldn't give him opportunities because of like they thought he didn't have a good work ethic, etc. But I knew what I could get out of him, and I just knew that I could make it work with Jay on my team. Like I knew we could be, it would be hard, but we would make it work. And that's just just how it is with Jay on the squad. And I just knew his potential. So I always was the guy who just like, I'll make it work. Like I trust him.
That's fair.
And he trusts me too. Like he'll do the dirty work for me. Like he'll allow me to be that guy. And he like on that EG team in IW, like it was a tough year. There were a couple moments like that were good. Like when we qualified, it was very tough, but like Study would put me in position to shine there. And I was like considered one of the at a point like one of the better players in that game.
Yeah. No, I can see that as well. And as we kind of go through here, like there's the Vegas Open, the very first, like the Vegas Open when it kicks off. There was a top 8 for you guys. If I remember correctly, that tournament, I thought you guys were going to do better. Obviously, disappointing. Even top 8's right. Here's the thing: at this point in your career, top 8 is obviously still considered very much professional player, best of the best. But a lot of players, like, what was your viewpoint on?
I was enraged, bro.
Yeah,
like if we got top 8, I was pissed at this point. Well, going into this EG team, I had negotiated like I mean, I started getting salaried on LG, but going into this EG team, I was actually getting like a livable salary finally. Yeah. And I was like, okay, we got to be fucking good now. Like we have to. Like there's no like get top 12, and then we just have to be good. I mean, top 8 was like you could see the potential there, but we're not stopping there, right? So, and now at this point, I mean, if you look at my team, Bryce, you see it's like a lot of people who haven't won and stuff. So like,
yeah,
I'm the veteran guy that's like trying to mold new talent now at this point. Like that's what's going on here. So, very stressful and also a new situation for me to be in. And that's where we landed, was like top 8 that whole season.
Yeah. And like, I'm guessing like when you that happens to you consistently, is this where the first threads of possible retirement start happening? Because you've been high, you've been low. It's like a lot of stress, especially being salaried and stuff. And so like as we look through this season, there's the Dallas Open top 8. There's the Pro League playoffs top 8. There's Anaheim top 6. Like it's a little bit of an upswing, and then the World Championship is possibly one of the worst results you've had in the last 5 years. What happened at the World Championship?
Oh, I don't even want to talk about that. I mean, there's like a clip that has like 100,000 views that says Nameless crying at the World Championship. So in IW, we had qualified for the Pro League by like the skin of our teeth. Like it was very tough. I mean, and it just sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I had a really crazy moment in series to help us qualify. Havoc had a big series as well there. And then I think I had my most passion I've ever had in that game since Ghost, because I just felt like I was really good at the game. Like I felt like I understood it in and out. I played it, 15 hours a day. I never put more time into a game than IW ever. Not a single Call of Duty ever. I put more time in IW than any Call of Duty ever. And it's because, and I remember the moment at Atlanta was one of the events there. Yeah, see it, 17-20. Atlanta. I placed 17-20. Worst placement I've ever had in my entire career, by the way. At that point, until that point. Worst placement I've ever had. I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, there's no way this is happening. I didn't think about retiring at that point. Not yet. I was just thinking in my head, like, there's no way that I would never place this again. I felt so terrible. I wanted to just drop my entire team, leave, like get out of my contract, do whatever I could, because I that feeling was terrible. So what I did was I went home and I dedicated every single moment I had to Call of Duty. I don't think I talked to a single person outside of what, babe? Oh, okay. I don't think I talked to a single person outside of a Call of Duty Pro player for 6 months. I played up until 3 a.m. every day, and I became, no joke, one of the better players of that game. And there's a point in that game where I got an offer to join Envy, who was really good because JCap wasn't that good. And EG didn't let me leave, which I understand because they wouldn't let like their best player go.
Yeah.
And that sucks because my team wasn't that good. Our team didn't work. And then we lost champs, and that's why that clip has 100,000 views of me crying on there. People think it's just funny, but dude, I put more time into that game than I did any other game in my life. It was a terrible feeling, like terrible.
Here's the thing, right? Like, it's fine. I mean, I understand why people find it funny. For me, I suppose the difference is that I've been there backstage with players. Like, I understand, and it's probably like one of these things. Like, I'm in this bubble of being close to professionals. Like, obviously, I've not competed at that level or dedicated my life to it as much as they have, but like, I understand why that emotion comes out. Like, I've seen more players. You aren't the first player to do it. You won't be the last. Like, I can probably name off like half a dozen players just off the top of my head who I've seen go to bits after an event, because it is everything. And here's the thing, like, and I don't want to preach too much, but I've said it before. People like to downplay what pro players go through and the stresses and the responsibility that there actually is.
Oh man,
Because
if
you
people
get to play
understood.
games for a living. And I'm like, yeah, but it is still going to be their job. And that job comes with imagine working like a normal and being judged on everything you do. Like, your last half an hour in work that day could decide whether or not you have a job tomorrow. Right?
Literally, yep, yep.
And that's why
And
like
it's
people get so
crazy.
stressed.
Man, like it's almost like a good feeling reflecting on sort of what I was going through during IW. Just I remember after Atlanta, like, what the hell's going on? Like, I can't believe I just placed that, and just grinding every single day and becoming really good at the game. And like, I truly felt like I was super good at it and I should have placed better. And like, it's a big regret. Like, it just sucks reflecting on it, because it's like I just feel like I was wasted talent during that year, which happens to people every year. I'm not saying, I was special because it happened to me during that time. It just happens to people. But that sucks. And that's why, like, without knowing like a certain pro story, or the opportunities they had that fell through, or the situation that they were in, like, it's hard to tell like what their potential could have been
Yeah.
given the situation.
No, I 100% agree. It's one of the reasons like I'm really interested in doing this, because as we walk through these events and you talk about your teammates, and you get to kind of understand that it's not just, oh, here's some numbers on the screen, or what people remember you from snapshots of one or two events, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, coming out of the World Championship, you must have been, I know, probably one of your all-time lows, right? Going into World War Two.
No, I was at an all-time high actually, Bryce.
Oh, really?
Contrary to what people might think. And the reason is because I was really good at IW, and I knew I was really good. And the pros also knew that I was good at that game. And so did my organization, right?
Yeah.
So it was like a freeing feeling. It's like the game's over. My teammates' contracts are up. And then
Get out.
yeah, EG fully believed in me. And I was able to, they's like, you're the captain, do what you want. And it was an amazing feeling because, we were getting salaried, and I'll just say the numbers from back then. Like, it was like 2-3 grand. I think some teams are on 4 grand. We negotiated to get us to 4 grand at the
Yeah.
end of the season of IW to be competitive with some of the other teams. But going into and that was per month. And then going into the next year, I was able, EG was like, all right, Ant, we believe in you. We're going to give you a higher salary. And this was like the first big bump in salary in COD. And they're like, go pick up who you want. And I was like, bet. And I picked up who I wanted. And,
Pick up some names, by the way. Like, you did not,
well,
you did not shop small.
yeah, I didn't want a team with, people like I had been teaming with before. Right. So I picked up some like people I knew I could trust. And I tried to make a team where I could just like do my job and not
Yeah.
have to be like a captain stressing all the time, because I was doing that in that last team. So I picked up, App, Aches, and Enable, like 3 people who know what the fuck they're doing, who are smart. And it was just a headache. like a headache, bro. It was partly the game, but like it was just a massive headache. But I don't regret that team and making that decision to make that team, because it was a leap of faith, and they're not always going to work out. Like, at least in that situation, I had like control over who I wanted to play
Yeah.
with, and I got what I wanted, and we put our all into it. And the team didn't work out for whatever reason, and it led to me and finally retiring after
Yeah.
that team. But
Let's
it
talk
was
about
fun.
that. Let's talk about that, because the entire World War II sort of thing, it kind of follows on the same as the last season, right? There are a lot of top eights. There's a lot of heartbreak. There's a top 14. There's a top 20 in Birmingham, but that was the chalked event, so we won't talk about that. And then like it comes down to EG right up to this point. Like obviously I'm guessing they let you go. I don't know how that ended up happening. Like what conversation happened around that?
Everyone was scheming, bro. There was talk like me and Enable were gonna stay on the team, and then Appenix were gonna stay on the team. It was everybody was scheming. That team was just ass, by the way. Like it wasn't like me and Enable were just bad. Like the team just didn't work. Like we just weren't good as a team. No one was good on that team. Like everybody had terrible events. Like you can go back and look at the statistics. Like it wasn't like me and Enable were getting shit on. The team just didn't work. And we had some good pro league matches, whatever the case may be. And then me and Enable got dropped, and I was just like, "Fuck this, bro." I was just like, "I'm tired of this shit, dude. I've been playing for at this point 10 years." I was like, "I'm done. I'm done with this."
Was it? And there's kind of two questions I want to ask at the same time, so I have to pick one. Now, here's the thing, because this has been spoken about before. The EG team obviously go on to win the World Championship. Was there like a very bitter pill to swallow watching that from behind the scenes?
Not really, actually, because I remember, and people can attest to this, as I remember being like, I was working the desk and stuff, and I was loving what I was doing, bro. Like, I remember thinking about doing like on-air talent stuff prior to that.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'd be great up there and stuff, you know? And it was like a new challenge, and everybody was so nice, dude. Like all the talent, everybody I was working with was so nice and cool.
I am, yes.
And I had been totally, completely embraced by the Call of Duty community because I started the podcast, and everybody was just like showing me support. Like my Twitch stream, I blew up. Like at this time, I was averaging like 1,000 viewers on my stream. Like, I was playing Fortnite and shit, and people were watching me. So I felt like a lot of love, you know? So I didn't have any like bitterness. And I knew the team didn't work well. So it wasn't like I was salty I got dropped. Like it was just like, well, good for them. You know, like I did the desk segment. They asked me if I wanted to sit out for the desk segment where like when it was EG match. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm cool. I was like, yeah, you know, like more power to them. Like I still was good friends with App. Like it was all good.
How was it transitioning to being talent? Like that world of because here's the thing, you've seen it as a player, and if you remember correctly, we cast way back in the day, like when you were still a player and stuff. But then becoming, because obviously you went full-time talent after this, right? Like, what was it like transitioning into not being able to compete to just turning up and having to kind of do a job and present yourself to the world?
It was pretty interesting because I had to learn a lot of new things. I like when I first did my first event as talent, I was just going up there and I was just, as an analyst, I was just like super nerdy, like just talking about the game. And I had to learn, like, you have to like fuse it, right? Like people have to understand what you're talking about. But I had always been like a content creator, right? Like I was one of the pros who, you know, focused on being good, but also focused on the content because I knew I needed a future after. So I ended up, you know, progressing. Like I asked a lot of questions. Like, you know, everybody taught me a lot. Like you taught me a lot. Ben taught me a lot. What I just heard a noise. What was that? Right. Anyways, Ben taught me a lot. Maven taught me a lot. Merc taught me a lot. Like everybody just helped me, and it was just fine. Like they all knew. I guess people saw potential in me and just decided to go all in. You know, because we needed like another person on the team. And I felt like I learned pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you had a great debut as it. And obviously, kind of moving on to the Black Ops 4 season, I believe it is, where you were full-time on the desk, right? The full-time desk, very well established now, and you kind of had to run with it. So here's the questions, and I don't want to be rude, but I feel like I have to ask these questions for the community, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy. You've become a meme in several regards for it, and I think you've lent into it and you enjoy it, and you kind of go forward. But they're obviously like, how personal do you take it when people like shit talk you on Reddit and stuff? Because people love to. You are a figure on the Reddit that people marmite over. People love you very much so. It's obvious by your fan base, you know, very much well loved and respected. There is also a very vocal section that just love to clown on you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird because it was never like that when I was a pro.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a pro player, like all the fans basically respected me. Like even like the Optic fans and stuff. Like nobody nobody really talked shit to me. So it was new territory. And then being talent, you know, I started to get like shit talk, and people were being like, this guy was ass or whatever. I was like, what? It was just really confusing. Like now it's like a thing, like on Reddit, people be like, what, name was sucked or something. And I'm just like, huh? Because when I was a pro, like nobody ever said shit like that, you know? And I don't even know when that became a thing. I think it's just like somebody said it and then just like heard.
I think people just like having fun and then it gets out of hand. I mean, like there are some fun memes. Like here's the thing, and I've said this before, and we'll get to this, but I think one of the funniest things I ever seen was when you did that TCL thing. And whenever you did the TCL 1v1s for TVs, there would always be a Reddit post by somebody, I don't know who did it, of TCL giving away free TVs. Just again,
I don't know. I lost like 3 TVs in the.
You actually had a really good record, but it was just
in
so
like the
funny.
1,000 matches I played in that.
Yeah.
But what I think about that, by the way, playing like 500 1v1s against people and only losing like 3 times, that's fucking hard, bro. And I remember people like saying like free TV, and I just don't know where this stuff comes from. It doesn't even frustrate me, it just confuses me. But
like not once.
No, it has. Not them calling me bad thing. It's when they like when it's like baseless logic attacking something I said about a team. That's when I get annoyed. Or when they act like I cannot have an opinion as if I wasn't a pro player. That does annoy me. But then again, I realize that if they're angry, I'm doing my job. If they're happy, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
If I'm evoking an emotion from them, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
And also providing insight and validating my insight, and not just saying because I'm a pro, I'm right. Right. So these are things that I've learned over time. And certain things that I actually believe sometimes I don't say because some of it can't be validated by statistics and things like that. And I had to learn that though, that was Black Ops 4 for me. I was actually good with that in World War II because I was more reserved, but in Black Ops 4 I was more comfortable in just a public speaking format and I had my friends around me.
Do you think that hurt you, by the way? That's what I was going to get to, like, because the people that desk in Black Ops 4 was very much Marmite, and I've said to people before, I said I don't think it's the people on it. I think it's just maybe the way the show's being conducted, or that they're either too comfortable or not comfortable. And it kind of like it felt like sometimes the show got away from you being allowed to be you because you had to be you with your friends. Does that make sense? Like it was almost like a conflict of interest of instead of you being able to be more defined, you kind of came as a group, and that didn't allow any of you to shine individually.
Well, I think towards the end of the season, that desk was incredible. Yeah. I challenge anybody who's watching this to go back and watch Miami or COD Champs desk segments and tell me that those aren't some of the best desk segments you've ever seen in an esport. They were very good. We had been scrutinized, and I mean, not me in particular, but they had been like scrutinized and roasted. I actually didn't really get roasted that season. People liked me during the season. They were nice to me. But they had been, and then we had worked really, really hard. And it honestly was a little bit stressful for me because I just felt, I was like, I love everybody on here, but dang, bro, I'm really in like prime target number 1 right now. I'm working with all like freshmen, and I had been the freshman last year. So I was like, I was still new too. So like, I was like, it's a bunch of new people up here. Like there's no experienced people up here. This is going to be tough. And it was tough, but then everybody learned, bro. Like you can't expect a team of 4 new people to be an incredible analyst desk.
Yeah.
And another thing I will say, and this is no diss to anybody on any desk prior to that year, but the desk was boring as fuck. Can I curse on this podcast?
Oh yeah, because you can. Yeah.
The desk was boring as fuck for 5 years prior to that year. Like it was, dude, the desk is supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to provide insight, and it's supposed to get you going. What the desk is used for in broadcast, and I cannot stress this enough, it is used in between games and to set up games. And it's supposed to keep the viewers on the stream, because when you're watching a Call of Duty tournament, when the game's over or any tournament, you turn it off, but the desk is supposed to keep you there. If somebody's just sitting there and breaking down every number, and you have, you know, and like, I'm not even saying it, but if you have people out there just breaking down the numbers of every single match, you're not going to want to watch that shit all day long. And I know this because we have data to support it. So there's just got to be a balance between the two. And I think the balance was lost for the first half of Black Ops 4. And then it was gained towards the end. And then there was so much flack and so much hate, and the mob mentality took over that they ended up having to scrap that desk. But I think that there was a lot of potential and upside, maybe with a couple tweaks for the future of that desk, to be honest. But it ends up not working.
Yeah, I know. I get that. Like I said, I had to ask that question because obviously it's been a controversial topic the entire way through. But I think for me, it's always interesting because I love fucking that side of it. I love the production side of it. And I suppose without going into specifics, because obviously you are still very much working and everything like that.
Yeah.
Is there any ever times when like you come out of a briefing with like, I don't know, a producer or someone higher up, and you're like, this is a terrible idea for the desk, or I clearly disagree with this?
Well, yeah. So throughout Black Ops 4, they referred to my judgment a lot. I guess like with the desk, which I feel really grateful that they've trusted me with like the future and the I don't know, just the direction of the desk. So I'm involved in a lot of like how it's run and things that we're gonna do and stuff. And so those conversations happen all the time of like what will be good, what won't be good. Because I pay attention to everything when it comes to viewership and how they react to things, even when they get angry at things. And I'm like, is this a good anger? Is this an anger we want people to feel, or is this not? You know what I mean? And so with these topics, it's always like who do we want on the desk? What can we do?
Yeah.
And how do we fill the time and provide a balance of analysis and entertainment? And with the inaugural season of the Call of Duty League, it was really difficult, especially with going to online, because the desk was very limited in the fact that like our production program was limited, right? So I ended up getting thrown on 3 boxes with casters, which was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because so first of all, congratulations on being nominated for the Esports Awards Analyst of the Year.
Thank you.
We've spoken about it before. Here's the thing: you were actually one of the, and people don't know this, but I told you this. The Esports Award never used to have an Analyst of the Year segment, and you specifically were one of the reasons it now does. Because I remember talking to you about the Esports Award, something I've been involved in for a long time, and always trying to improve it. And I said to you, man, you're going to tweet out, or, and previously you basically just told me to go away because it's not worth it. And you explained to me, goes, I'm never going to be nominated for that position because I don't really fit in any of the categories. And it doesn't make any sense. So there is no award for me on the Esports Awards. I'm like, holy shit, he's right.
Yeah.
And I took that information, I went back to the Esports Awards, and we discussed it. And out of that grew an actual dedicated award, which you actually ended up getting nominated just the next year for.
Great feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And when we speak about you on the panel, I can't go into specifics, but I said, I think he's a very good analyst. I think a great start to the year. I said, obviously, the COVID situation and how the desk all ran was very, very different this year, and obviously how they used them. I said, but I think I highlighted to me your biggest achievement. I said, look, here's the thing you need to know about Ant. I said, not only is he so super close to the player still, so he has insight that while he can't always give away exactly what he wants to say, he knows what is happening in the inner workings of the movie. And he still can play about that level, right? I've seen you play in some of these games, right? And you are producing content on the outside of that, which is very informative and pushing forward. So I said, even with the craziness of the desks this year and the different sections you had to pull off, you were still able to convey yourself. And outside of the memes, it's a very impressive workload to continue to do that. Like I say, and this is not me just being nice to you. This is an explanation for people who, because I have no need to be nice to you. I can say whatever I want. I get away with it. But like people on Reddit won't understand this because like they'll want to clown on you, me. And I was like, you guys don't understand, right? Because I've been in the same position you have, Ant, where you know shit that is happening internally and you cannot say anything. But you can allude to it, and you can give your hot take, and people will think you're mad or insane. Because the worst part about being an analyst for me, and I'm sure you've seen this, is making a prediction that then wrong, and then people giving you shit for a wrong prediction.
Oh man, it happens all the time, dude. It happens. It's the worst thing. The second worst thing is like when you say something and then you get outspokenly challenged by a pro or something on a public social channel, and then you're in an argument back and forth, and whether you're right or wrong, you look like a dick, you know? So, and I've been the guy who's like, I don't care. Right. So like, I'll take the blow from it. But yeah, I mean, between the desk and all the content stuff that I do, I wear a lot of hats because I'm forced to be the entertaining guy. Like I have to be, and I like it. That's who I am. And that's why they trust me to do it. And
you were the only analyst this year. Until the later part of the seasons. Obviously, like Rich was there, but
I had to be a weapon, dude. It was me, Rich. I mean, if you think about it, like I would say we're a tier 1 sport, would you? Right? And we're up there.
We're up there. We're definitely up there.
Okay. We're up there. And you know, I felt like the start to this season, I was hitting my groove, dude. I felt like a weapon. I mean, it was me, Lottie, and Rich, and I was the only analyst on the desk. And it was working, dude. The desk was working. I was doing my job.
Yeah, no, because here's the thing. Like, it's like I said, it's fun to me and I've done it. It's fun, but not in like a mean way, but more like I know you to shit talk you on the timeline and stuff. It's just funny, right? Like the banter everyone has. But when I see I saw fucking on the Reddit this thing about I was on the podcast. You ranked the teams and you put Seattle Surge like right high, and I'm like, and people are like giving you shit. I was like, at the start of the season, you find me someone who didn't think that team was going to be fire. Like you find somebody like making
a good team, bro.
Making a call like that is fine with the logic to back it up. If an analyst was always right, the game would be boring as hell because obviously everyone would know what would happen. It's like such a stupid thing. Like you can't be wrong.
COD every year, bro. It's it's impossible to predict. 6 teams won last year.
No one would have predicted that. Not in a million years. Praises. All right, let's start wrapping this up. Let's do questions from the chat. It's a very quick fire bit here. All we do is open quick questions. Nothing too massive. Like people ask crazy things before. Like, what do you think of franchising? So like, it's mad to go with that. So that's this one. This is Vonahar Leak coming straight in. Do you see yourself continuing as an analyst, or ideally, would you like to become a full-time caster?
I don't know. It's whatever they need me to do. I love doing both of them. As an analyst, I think I can, you know, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, they're just like, I can do both. I thought I was pretty good at casting without having a lot of experience. But
people don't realize about that. It takes a long time to get smooth.
Yeah, you need a really good duo for that. And you know, we have had duos and they don't, I don't just whatever they need me for. Like, to be honest, that's been a discussion. Vonda Harley Gersh, that's my guy Gersh. I know he is for a while. And I mean, who goes on the desk then is basically the thing. So I don't know. Either way works for me. I don't really care. It works.
And I don't think we can go into this because you never mentioned, but I know from knowing you, obviously, that this isn't like you've had other offers for other stuff.
Yeah,
like we talked about a really big one actually a year ago, right? But like it's people like don't understand that this sort of stuff comes at you all the time. Like you get these like, oh, I could change the track here, or it doesn't come out of nowhere. Is there like have you ever been like super tempted by an offer to switch to anything else?
Yes, I've had. You mean like other jobs, or
just or just like different track in the industry, or even outside the industry?
Yeah, I've been super tempted. Yes, I'll just say that I've been super tempted a couple times, and they ended up falling through because I just as I'm still getting better at this and still learning this, and it's a chapter that I don't want to close yet, and I like it. I don't know. It's really fun to be, talking to people, and I love what I do. But yeah, I've definitely been tempted to switch because there's a few things being an on-air talent, of course, that I wish were better. And that is like probably a whole nother podcast, that we can do. But there's little things
while we're still working for them, we can't.
Yeah. Like, but I mean like small things like, well, not small things, like big things like having guaranteed,
work and stuff,
2-year, 3-year deals, things like that. Like those are things that I think need to happen.
That's stress, by the way. That's a lot of stress.
A lot of stress.
I've been a
Mhm.
freelancer for like 8 years now. It is
Yeah.
never not stressful. I've been.
Yeah.
Here's the worst thing. There was points in my career when I have not been able to basically go home for months on it. I remember once there was a joke where I was counting my time home in hours. Genuinely,
Yeah.
like I'd get home, wash my stuff, sleep, and be off the next morning. And even then, even when I was so busy, it was unhealthy. I was never
Yeah.
not stressed about work because you're
You know what's
always
crazy,
thinking,
guys?
yeah,
Is like when you're doing as an on-air talent, tell me if you think like this. It doesn't matter when it happens. If you get an opportunity to do a show, and obviously it's a legitimate good
yeah,
production and broadcast, like, and they meet your day rate, whatever, you're not going to say no, right?
yeah,
So like you could realistically be doing something on a Friday, have plans for the next Wednesday to go see family or something. It's like you get a show opportunity. It's like, I'm sorry, guys, I got to do it.
yep,
And like whether you're working, less than, a 9 to 5 job, that stress of the unknown is always there. So it hits you from different angles. It's like I just signed to do like a Warzone show, which is like 5 different shows out of nowhere. But it was like, I don't know what the dates are going to be. There could hit me with the date at any moment, and when
yeah.
they pop up, it could be like an all day, like it could be like a 2 day thing that's all day long, and they can
Yeah.
conflict with other things. Like it can be stressful at times. So it's like the volatility of it, but I wouldn't change it for anything. There's different sides of stress to everything, right? It's just not being certain. I
Yeah.
think with on-air talent is one of the tougher things.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like I said, I've done it too long now. If COVID hadn't hit, I probably would have switched lanes a while ago. There was
Yeah.
plans for me at the start of the year to do some different stuff. But no, I fully like it's stress. Like even with the like your CDL gig all year, it's still stress. I remember when I signed not last year, the year before, the whole year of CDL events. Even then, I'm stressed. I was like, this
Yeah.
is mad. This is
Yeah.
mad. And I don't think people like outside will ever get that. Like if you have a 9 to 5 job, obviously, we get to do great things. We get to go all over the world. We talk about computer games for a living. But there is a level of stress, like full on breakdown. Like, how the fuck am I holding up at the moment, worrying
Yeah.
about what my future is, and
It's like you
being
don't get to
judged
turn
every
it
day.
off. Yeah, and being judged every day for your performance, you have to be like, I don't know, like I romanticize and fantasize about the idea of just being like knowing like, okay, when I get off work, I could just stop thinking about work, right? Like, or like I'm good, like I just got to do my job, right? You can't just do your job as a competitor in anything, right? It's on
Yeah,
your talent, you're a competitor. Realistically, you're competing against everyone else to be the best that you can possibly be, and people are judging you every day on what you're doing, right? So it's like I don't know, it's tough, and some things aren't in your hands all the time, which is also
yeah.
a tough part of it.
People never get there. Like, you just can't be off. Like, if you're ill, you got to be on. If you're tired, you got to be on. Like, because your shit's all being recorded, and people will be watching that, and anything you
Yeah,
do wrong will be immortalized. Like,
yeah.
I've sat at events with the flu, and I'm just basically like just taking probably dangerous amounts of painkillers and flu and cold tablets and stuff because I'm like, I've still got to perform.
You can't miss a day. How
Yeah,
are you gonna miss a day if you're duo casting with somebody, right? You just leave them
yeah.
out to dry. Like, how do I miss a day on the desk? Like, I remember Black Ops 4, I got sick, and I was like, "Fuck, I can't miss this day." Like,
People have probably had like a lazy day, like in their day-to-day jobs. Like, I don't know, you probably have like a bad day as an accountant, like just taking it
yeah.
easy, not doing a ton of work. Like, you can't do that in this job because you've got people relying on you, and everybody else in that thing is relying on you. It's and don't get me wrong, right? I'm not sitting here pretending like I'm like a firefighter, like I'm pulling people out of burning
This is the
buildings.
talks we have, Bryce,
Yeah,
because we're in the same lane. I mean,
yeah.
I remember when I signed the deal to do CDL last year and the schedule they sent me, bro, I was supposed to travel the first initial schedule. I was supposed to travel back to back to back to back to back weekends every single week for like 27 weeks with like 4 breaks. Bro, that would have been insane, dude. Like those are the things. Like, what if that, like, when that happened, it's like, fuck, I can't just not do this.
Yeah,
Right.
and here's
Yeah.
the other thing, like people haven't really talking about, right? Because I obviously obviously wasn't involved last year a ton. I did stuff in the UK with Acne, but not a lot with obviously you guys. But obviously I heard the plans for last year that changed, by the way,
Bro.
massively all the time. Like they were supposed to have so many different things, and I know that you yourself and some of the other talent I've spoken to were being told
Bro.
different things like every week. Like
I
that
had
plan was not solidified
I
at
had the
all.
first schedule and I was like, I don't know, somebody's gonna die if we do this schedule, bro. I was like, no way.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting being like that situation. Obviously, yeah, I only put in the chat. COVID did not help. COVID did not help any of it. Like the stress, like setting up those massive screens and stuff in the background, and all the stuff that had to go into it. All right, we'll do the last question here, and then we'll end this because I've taken up a good amount of your time, but I've very much enjoyed it.
It's been great.
You've got the CDL gig going, but going forward, which of your side projects are you most excited to put work into? Streaming, YouTube, the podcast, anything else?
So I have an incredible management team in Bad Moon Talent. They've been killing it for me, and we got some stuff working with the podcast that is going to be great. First episode return is on the 21st, but I'm just most excited for content in general. I think that there is a big opportunity for Call of Duty content creators right now, especially going in this year with how big Call of Duty has become, and it's still continuing to grow. I just think there's a massive opportunity for content, and knowing that I have the ability and the eye and the brain for it, I know that I can create unique and great content that the fans will want to see. So I sort of put those all into one category as one side project, but probably the podcast. Yeah. And I'm working on a new show, Bryce.
Oh, nice.
That's gonna I don't even want to announce anything about it. But I'm working on a new show that's gonna come out that I guess I'm most excited for that because it's new.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. I feel like I understand that completely, trying to dip into the content myself here. It's just an interesting change, and it's interesting. But speaking of which, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, dude.
This has been awesome. So this is the part where I give you any last shout outs or things you want to get off your chest and say to anyone listening or watching.
Well, one, shout out to Bryce for bringing me on. I appreciate you wanted to talk to me, honestly. And, now that we've done this podcast, if anyone needs to learn anything about my history, they can just go back and watch this, because I felt like we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Somehow in, a couple hours. And it was a lot of fun, dude. You're a really good podcast host, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I felt really comfortable this whole time answering all these questions, going through this journey with you. Like, it was really natural.
I appreciate that. I think it's always.
I just wanted to let you know.
It's always an interesting. Like I tweeted about it earlier. So I actually thinking about these, because this is not obviously like I used to do Spitfire, and that was a bit different. But I realized that one of the things I really enjoy is there is an incredible amount of stories that just don't get told.
Yeah.
There are player histories that if we don't embrace them and listen to them and enrich the incredible tapestry that is Call of Duty esports, they just won't ever be there. Like, people won't understand that, or like new gens won't understand your entire playing career if they've only been watching the last 2 years, right? Like all that stuff you did, all those journeys you went through, unless they super dig deep, they're not going to see it because nobody talks about it. But dude, I appreciate that massively. I could say the same to you. Because obviously he's banging. But no, man, I first of all, I appreciate you coming on and giving me this time, right? Like, I know it's not an easy thing for a very busy man like yourself to give me a few hours to wander through memory lane. So thank you very much, brother, and I hope we'll be reunited soon.
Hopefully, bro.
All right. Well, thank you again, Ant, for coming on, and thank you to everyone listening and watching. Of course, the VODs will be up soon. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, I appreciate it very much. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.